keep track of all these new reality singing shows.
I guess Bill has given us a brand new introduction here. I'm not sure what that was, but greetings, everyone, and 2024. I see Reggie's in the building. Bill, Dave, Demetrius, Don.
Full house today. Full house.
Full house.
Full house. Okay. Wow. What's going on, Reggie? I'm surprised that you're not in here.
I know.
I almost called out today, guys. I almost called out. You know, it was rough. It was a rough day, but I'm here, man.
You got the shirt on and everything. I like that. He's repping in all situations.
Man. Yeah. Got to go down with the ship, guys. Got to go down with the ship.
That's great.
Oh, man. Well, let's get things started here. Demetrius has promised that we're going to have a soliloquy tonight. So,
fair warning right up front. There's a topic. I'm going to beg you guys indulgence. I'm going to ask you guys. I've got a long one. I can save the final thoughts. I can do it mid-show, but I'm going to need longer time than I've ever taken. I respect everybody's time. It's a group pod, but I've got some. Well, it's too early. Some stuff that's been festering for like 11 days. And
11 days, wow.
I need to get that off my chest. Whenever James wants me to do it, I'll do it. There's a logical spot there.
Sounds like a black violin thing to me. But let's get on with the show here. Dave, how have things been going in your neck of the woods?
Well, looking up from a few weeks ago, he was stuck into the playoffs, so I'll be driving up to Buffalo Saturday morning.
Very nice. Very nice.
Well, let's get things started with ladies first. Dave, Sue's Corner. First of 2024.
All right. So here's Sue's first one. And she's talking superstitions. Do you guys have any special superstitions when it comes to watching important games? I have found that the past 3 Steelers games that I have to actually sit and watch the whole dang game. To be honest, as much as I am a burger girl and grew up on Steeler football, I don't always have to watch the games from start to finish like Dave does. But the past 3 games, I have sat down offering up coaching suggestions to the TV, second-guessed some play calling loudly, those kind of helpful things, lots of laughs. This past game, Dave put one of the dog beds on his head. That's true. So I have suggested that he might need to wear that to the Buffalo game because it seemed to work. My mom, if the team was doing badly, would sit in her living room with the game on, but turn her back on it. I was just curious if you had any kind of rituals you go to when watching sports that matter to you. So that was Sue's Corner, and she opened up with a question.
Let's see. There's a couple guys here that I'm pretty sure that have some superstitions when it comes to the game. And I'm going to start with the guy in the middle there that I'm sure that he has a ritual that he goes through before every game and before every podcast. So, Demetrius, are there any particular superstitions that you have?
Yeah, so there's 3. Two of them are simple, probably shared with many. The third one's is a unique deal. So game day shirt, right? Every game day, I'm wearing a Lions shirt. My guess is that's a simple one that everybody does. I don't care if the game's on Saturday, Thursday, whatever. That day, I will be wearing a Lions shirt, and I have plenty of them. I am a prolific coffee drinker, for the record. Your boy drinks a lot of coffee. And I have a Detroit Lions mug. And on game day, I only drink out of that mug. Don, why is your face like that, bro? coffee is delicious. We talked about this when I was down there. Oh, he might be reading something. So the other one is
Just listening.
yeah, okay, good. The other one is, without making the story long, there was a series of movies in the early 70s starring Bill Cosby and Sidney Poitier. There was 3 of them, right? My personal favorite is called Uptown Saturday Night.
Night.
Oh, the best one. The best one.
Yes.
I watch Uptown Saturday Night every game day. Before
It was the first.
Right. If they're kicking off at 1, I'm up at 8:30 watching Uptown. If the game
That was the first non-kid move I ever saw. I saw it at a drive-in theater.
Bill, we're talking to Demetrius. I'll get to you. Come on.
Those are my 3 things. I have a shirt always.
New rules for
Game day
2024.
Yep.
No interruptions by Bill Carroll. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I watch Uptown Saturday Night every game day. If they play in London, I'm gonna get up at 4:30 in the morning so I can watch Uptown before the game. Win, loser. So that's my weird one. The coffee and the shirt are probably pretty common.
I'm pretty sure that's unique. Number 3.
Yeah, love that movie. I've seen that movie 150 times. Easy.
Okay, now I'm going to go to a couple of players. Don, do you have any superstitions before watching a Texas game or watching a Dallas game or whoever you decide to watch? Or before you get on that road going through Oklahoma?
So I'll go back to my high school days. When I played high school football, I would not leave the locker room until I played through Led Zeppelin's Immigrant Song 3 times.
Wow.
So that was my pregame ritual. Yeah, Led Zeppelin Immigrant Song. Look it up. It'll pump you up. It's only about 3 minutes long. It's a short song, so I'd listen to that. As far as modern day, I do have a shirt that I wear to every UT game. I started that like 2 years ago. So right now I am like 15-2 wearing it, in Austin. It's just a shirt I like. I mean, I wear it. So if it's a cold weather game, I wear it. I just wear, layers of clothing under it or on top of it. But yeah, I do have a lucky shirt. But that's about it. When I'm watching games at home, nothing special.
Bo.
Yeah, so as a fan, I will wear whatever color jersey based on where they're playing. So if it's a home jersey, I'll wear home colors. If they're away, I'll wear away. When I was a player, I had a certain, ritual about how I would tape. There was a certain amount of pressure that I wanted to feel. If it wasn't right, I'd cut it off. I'd redo it. And there was something about a correct tape job before getting out on the field. Last thing I ever wanted to worry about was the tape not either being too tight or too loose or whatever. And so if you could tell just based on the pressure of how it was wrapped, and that was something that every game, if it wasn't right, it's coming off and getting redone.
I wanted to get Bill in here.
Reggie for Reggie's, man.
He ran away. Oh, there he is.
Okay.
There he is. He's back.
Bill, any special rituals you go through before a game, practice? I can remember a lot of those special rituals that before going in,
Ouija board
and things like that. I can relate to Bo about the tape having to be just right. What's some of the things that maybe you carried some over from your college experience, or as Don his high school when him and Abe sat there by the candlelight reading a book. Doing the homework. But go ahead, Bill.
Before like wrestling matches, I'd usually bleed. Sometimes I might.
Goodness gracious!
What?
See, I went to the Ouija board immediately.
I might like bite the inside of my mouth. I might. pick at something until it bled. Usually,
we got to cut her.
Thanks, Sue. Thanks, Sue. Appreciate it. You get to follow that, Reggie.
I something about that like made me ready to destroy somebody. Wow. Nothing quite like blood to get you ready.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
All right.
I'm gonna keep watching my movie.
There you go. I have nothing in comparison to that. I'll tell you that right now. I don't really. My superstition doesn't really come from games. It comes from my fantasy games. Like when I'm playing fantasy, my superstition is not being able to check my fantasy during the game. Like I have to check. I have to wait till after all the games are played on Sunday to check it, or I will lose. So wow, I did pretty good.
Yeah. Demetrius, our congratulations in order.
Of course, two of them. Come on, don't act like it's just one. Both of them. What are you talking about?
Goodness.
And guys, you know what's weird?
I want to say one thing that I don't. It's not game related, but season related. Towards the end of the season, once the Pittsburgh's in Super Bowl contention, I stopped shaving.
Oh,
yikes.
Okay.
So, but once they're out, then I shave everything off. So you might see a different visage here in the next
week. Mission Impossible. Demetrius, don't forget send me your address and all that, and we'll get your championship T-shirt.
Appreciate it. Thank you. First time in over 30 years I've ever won a fantasy football league. As much as I like it, I've never won. I've run my own league for 14 years. Never won. My wife won it twice. I've never won. Yo, my mother-in-law won my fantasy football league. I have never won a fantasy football league until this year.
That's amazing.
I lost in the Super Bowl in my personal league and won these two of the three leagues. So,
there we go. There we go.
Yeah, we got it together.
All right. Well, okay. All right. So let's talk about this national championship game here. I know this is a kind of tender subject for you, Demetrius, but hey.
What a pivot there, right? The highs and the lows.
I know. I was happy for like 40 seconds. Thanks, buddy.
So, Bill, I'm going to give you a chance here to talk about the national championship team down there in Michigan.
So while I may not have the same level of venom that my friend who is right beneath me may have, I did both attend, have a master's degree, and was a graduate assistant at the University of Illinois. And while, like I said, it may not be as, white hot, we certainly had our own special feelings as well for those people from there. And and they used to call us fibs. And I'll let you all figure out what FIB stood for. So we sat through it. We watched it. Now, I have always had sort of an interesting, not love, hate, I don't know, just fascination with the entire Harbaugh family. Like, if there was ever a family, if only somebody could do a reality TV show about the Harbaughs, it would be fascinating watching, I promise. The, like gallons of milk going down. I guess Dockers would have to sponsor the show. Flat-bribbed, baseball caps. I mean, what an interesting crew of people they are. But to his credit, Coach Harbaugh, and more importantly, that entire apparatus, the assistant coaches, the trainers, the operations staff, it's hard to explain to somebody who hasn't been inside the bubble of a college football program what a weird experience it is to go inside the bubble, right? I would sometimes talk to football coaches about things going on in the world. They'd look at me like they had no idea what I was talking about. Like the O.J. Simpson trial, right? Things you think everybody knows about. And you talk to a college football coach, it's like, oh, what did O.J. do? It's like, oh, wow, okay. This is going to take longer than we really have. Okay, I'll hook you up after the season. So it is a very compressed environment, right? It's a very strange environment. And when you think about what's gone on around that program this season, right? If ever there was something that could knock you off, that could take you off your square, that could move you from the balance beam onto the pads beneath, you would think it would have happened to this team. And they never budged. They never flinched. I mean, I'm not a fan by any stretch, but I am impressed beyond what words can express at what they accomplished when you think about all of the Sturm and Drang and Furor and sound and everything around this program. And now people are buying up their, Michigan versus everybody to Michigan beats everybody sweatshirts. Oh, Jesus Christ. So what they have done, though, it is impossible not to respect. Once again, to go back to, another past life, I don't have to salute the man, but I have to salute the rank. In this case, I don't have to salute the program, but I have to salute what they accomplished. I do have nothing but the most unalloyed respect for what they accomplished under the most incredibly difficult circumstances. And I'll stop right there.
I ain't saluting shit. I just want to keep that clear. No salute at all.
I got something for you, Demetrius. Don't worry. I saved you up a little something here too.
I mean, at least you're not mad about it.
Right, exactly. I'm not at all salty.
Yeah. Well, Bola, what do you think about a program that when the coach has to proclaim we're innocent? I mean, usually, that's the first thing everybody in jail says. I'm innocent.
So, I mean, I guess there's a few things to it, right? One of them is I don't really see the sign stealing as a big deal, right? So that's scouting, right? If you're not watching film, you're not trying. So I don't like, if you don't want it, put speakers in the helmets. Like, what are we even talking about? I don't know. I don't find it as egregious. Like, if it was what Houston did, right, where you're banging on trash cans, you know what the pitch is coming. Sure. Okay. I get that. Right. But you still have 11 dudes that have to stop somebody. Right. So sure, you might know the alignment. Great. If you're a good defensive player, you should probably know the alignment when they line up. Right. So I don't put a lot of stock in it. That being said, even if he didn't know, you're still the guy that's going to fall for it, right? Like, there's never been anywhere where a manager has people go rogue, do something, and the manager doesn't ultimately get nailed for it, right? They can be like, oh, I didn't know. It's like, cool. That means you're actually worse at your job than we thought, right? So, yeah, I mean, I don't. It's basically how Dennis Allen's going to get fired from the Saints, right?
Exactly.
His team just went out and do whatever they want.
Not a stray for Dennis Allen, I see. Huh?
I know.
It's not a stray. We all watched it.
We did.
But no, I mean, similar stuff. So he's going to catch that heat. I think the fact that they won probably. It accelerates his trip to the NFL, though, because if the NCAA does want to pursue that year suspension, why would you hang out when you can get similar money and go get, go back to the NFL?
What do you think there, Reggie?
I'm going to kind of echo both statements there. I think that the sign stealing is something that I didn't even know that was a crime. I didn't even know that was something that people just did. I didn't even know that was a problem. I felt like this was something that every team did. Something that every team did.
Laws, no excuse, Reggie.
Right. They're definitely, I'll tell you what, guys, you best believe the other team is trying to. If you haven't caught them doing it, they're attempting to do it. And I think that you should just operate on that. With that, as far as Michigan and the program, I think they deserved it. I mean, they've been pretty consistent. They've been a consistently good team all throughout the year. They dominated. The line of scrimmage domination was incredible. Like, it was incredible for my team. It was incredible for Michael Penix. They almost put this man back 5-10 draft spots in that one game. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like it's. I think that should be applauded. I understand why Demetrius would not applaud it. But otherwise, outside of that, I'm gonna give you that respect. Outside of that, I think that it's just that they were just a better team. They were consistently the better team all year, and that is what showed itself in the national championship game.
Don, what's your thoughts here?
Well, of course, I have my own perspective on the Texas Washington game, but Michigan is a team that I don't really want to root for, but because they put Ohio State and I hate Ohio State, I always cheer for Michigan in that game. The fact that Harbaugh is a 3-0 against Ohio
Enjoyed
State
having
last
you
3
on for
years.
2024,
He's won
Don.
the-
We're glad to get to know you. Go ahead.
But no, I mean, it's a game. And what we're seeing now is, like, I think a preview of things to come. Well, I'm sure we'll touch on it later, but it looks like Alabama might be starting their slow decline. So the fact that you had Michigan, Washington, and Texas, along with Alabama in the Final Four, to me, that was just pretty amazing because, let's face it, I mean, Texas hasn't been there. Michigan was there last year, but they had a quick exit. Washington, so it's good to see new faces. And I have some opinions about, the possible rules violations because I am a believer in the law. And, if it's proven that, there was some underhanded things going on, I do hope the NCAA comes down hard on Michigan. But I'm already thinking about next year, guys. I'm pumped. This season has rejuvenated my football love.
Nice.
What's your thoughts here, Dave?
Well, I'm a little bit. I'm not going to agree with Bill or Bo. I mean, on the one hand, I would separate out the Michigan players and their performance on the field from the coaching staff and the actions that they took. And so, hey, Michigan won the game. They deserved the game. I don't think that the stealing signals should not have been a factor in that game against Washington. But it's just, when we say, oh, he was just stealing signs, everybody does it. Well, that makes it sound like, oh, they were just sitting on the sidelines watching the other side and then picking up what they were doing. Well, no, they were buying tickets, 30, 40 tickets to go to competitors' games.
Right. Yep.
They were putting staff, sneaking them onto the sidelines of other teams.
Look at them supporting the other team.
Right. Yeah, they were supporting the other team. And also, this was not Harbaugh's first suspension. He was suspended for recruiting violations.
Goodness gracious.
So he was establishing a track record of skirting the rules. And I think if the NCAA, now they would have never done it, forced him to forfeit a couple games, which would have prevented him from getting into the national game. But the NCAA is not going to do that. And I think it was Bo that mentioned, hey, why should he stick around the NCAA? Just go to the NFL. And I won't be surprised at all. I would expect that he will go back to the NFL. He did the successful job with San Francisco. But I just hey, I mean, it's just not a matter of they were doing what every other team does and tries to, pick up the signals. I mean, that's pretty egregious to me, what they were doing. But that's not, but you have to separate what the players did on the field. That doesn't, to me, it doesn't take away from what they accomplished on the field.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Goodness gracious. Says the Spartan guy.
In case y'all didn't know, I wanted to remind you.
Go green, go white.
Exactly.
Okay, Demetrius. Now, we all know about this very distinguished alumni that you have that is part of the Commanders ownership group. He also owns, has part of the Dodgers also. So do you think it's possible that a former MSU graduate would actually recruit Jim Harbaugh as coach of the Washington Commanders?
Absolutely. This is business. Irv is as committed a Spartan as ever. Nobody's ever going to question Irv's love for East Lansing and every building on that campus. Now, this is the president and CEO of Magic Johnson Enterprises. This ain't number 33. This is business. If he thinks this is the best guy to do the job, in his role, whatever that is, with the Commanders, he's got to do it. He's got to. The fact that guy came from another school, don't care. I love Aiden Hutchinson right now. Aiden Hutchinson, the Detroit Lion, love him. I don't know what school that dude went to. I know he's a great lineman. That's how I view it. This is business. And so, like, when he's going to have his pick of jobs, we know that, right? And these ancillary things, LA's a nice city and a charter job, and Vegas is Vegas, and Charlotte is beautiful. I've been to Charlotte many times. Lovely city. I like Charlotte. The reality, though, we know what it is, right? If I can quote the great philosopher Rod Tidwell, show me the money. Show me the money. Right, somebody's going to cut him a huge check. He'll be in the NFL, and good for him. He earned it. He has an agent. That agent gets a percentage. So yeah, the fact that Irv is a Spartan, if the numbers are right, he'll coach the Commanders. That's what it is. That's how that works in that league. So yeah, I don't think any of that. I think he can sit down and he and Magic can have a conversation like two businessmen, and Magic will do everything he can to make the Commanders a winner. And if he thinks that's the guy and they cut the check, that's easy. That's how I think it works. I don't think it's that complicated.
Hey, spoken of, you've always said you're a numbers man. Hey,
exactly. Numbers are the thing. The data is easy. What's the check look like?
Bo, let's talk about the end of the Pac-12 and the rise of the Big 16. Where's Washington, USC, and all those? Where are they going to be next year?
Yeah, it's actually going to be 18. It's going to be 18 schools.
Yep.
Yeah, the Big 18.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. I guess the only thing the NCAA did, for the next couple of years, that threw them a bone. So they'll still do the Apple Cup where it's Wazoo and Washington, right? So they're going to do that a few more years. But it's going to be interesting. I think probably one of the biggest things that comes out of the conferences growing is we're going to see kind of the end of, or, less frequent undefeated seasons. Because now you're not going to have one or two schools in your conference that are good, and you have one out of conference game that's good, and then you're beating up on Tulsa and Temple and Vanderbilt stuff, right? Like you're going to play good schools for half your schedule. So you're going to end up with a lot more 1 or 2 loss teams. And not just because it's an expanded playoff to see them in the playoffs, but because you're just going to have a lot less undefeated teams, because now you're going to have Michigan, Ohio State, Oregon, Washington. I mean, you're going to have teams, right? So it's, and of course the Big 12 is growing. Florida State wants to make a move. So, I mean, all of these conferences are starting to consolidate, and you're getting real football schools all in the same conference. It's going to be a lot less of these undefeated teams and more competitive football all year. So I actually kind of like it in that way, but you are seeing a lot of tradition go away.
Okay. Prior to us hearing about the retirement of Coach Saban, and I don't know, I'm sure this is going to have impact, but Bama and Georgia open up as preseason favorites for next season. Don, where does Texas and Oklahoma fit in this SEC salad? Are they the dressing? Are they the condiments? What's the deal here? Are they going to be the also-rans?
Well, Texas and Oklahoma will not be also rans. They're going to be at the top tier. I think Saban leaving Alabama is in Texas and Oklahoma coming in next year. That's a perfect storm. Texas and Oklahoma both recruited well. A lot of the Alabama players already talked about going to transfer portal. And who's going to get those Alabama players? Texas, Oklahoma, probably Georgia. Ole Miss will probably get a few, but I'm just saying the task for Alabama is to keep their players, and that's gonna be hard to do because Saban was building that program for so many years. His assistants, and here comes Texas and Oklahoma in like a bull in the china shop. I could possibly see in the 12-game playoff next year, probably having 4 to 6 SEC teams in it.
Goodness.
That's just the way it's going to be. But I think Texas is going to do real well. I think Oklahoma is going to rebound from this year. LSU is always going to be tough. So the SEC just became must-watch TV. Let's just say that.
I can already hear the new chant, low tide. Here we go.
Reggie,
Yes, sir.
what's going on? Everybody jumping on the bandwagon now, kick them while they're down. What's going on there, Reggie?
Well, I understand when you're at the top so long, there's a lot of haters out there. So I get it. I get we've been on the mountaintop for so long here that eventually people were gonna try to throw these shots but I think that there are some good points. I'm not a delusional fan when it comes to my fandom for my teams. They are going to have to hold on to their. If Nick Saban counted for something when he leaves, that has to also count for something. So you got to see. Bama's going to have to go on defense when it comes to keeping their players, but I don't think that's a Bama thing. I think that's an NIL transfer portal thing. Welcome to the new life.
True.
When the money comes showing in different schools, you're going to have to fight to keep your players on your own team. And there's going to be a lot of other teams that we never really mentioned in these conversations that are going to be relevant because of the money flowing around here and the transfer portal. So I believe we're entering a new landscape of college football in general. I do believe that Bama will be relevant, but I got to get a little bit more information to see how relevant will be. I got to see who the new coach will be, how many of these players we actually hold on to, but I'm not stressing about it. I'm just going to kind of see how things are going to go post Nick Saban right now.
So to be fair, I will talk in the season, out of the season. If you guys are number one, it doesn't matter.
Who is that?
Don. Yeah.
Go ahead, Don.
He built up so much.
No,
suspense.
I was just going to ask Reggie if who would you like to see? Yeah, who would you like to see succeed? Saban at Alabama. Who are your 3 choices?
I like Dan Lanning's situation. I feel like a lot of teams do. I like Dan Lanning. I'm not gonna get Kirby Smart back. I would love to kind of get him back into the fold. If I can bring Kirby Smart back in, that would be amazing. I really just have those 2 right now. I got to look around the landscape and see who, because sometimes, guys, when jobs open, people who aren't really available become available when certain jobs become available. So I believe that there's going to be some coaches that are available that we don't really even think about right now as a result of this particular job being available. But Lanning and Kirby Smart is a long shot. I would love to get him back, but I'm not really sure about him. So I would say Lanning right now would be my fave, and looking to see who else might jump into that race now that people know the job's actually available.
Bill, why don't you give us your top 3?
Learn to speak Dabo, buddy. I'm half kidding, but
Okay.
I obviously Kiffin is going to sniff around the corpse as well. You knew that would happen.
Yeah, no.
I think they should consider some not quite so obvious candidates, guys who are flat killing it with lesser resources. And you think about what they would do at Alabama. Willie Fritz is a freaking miracle worker. If you look at what he's done at Tulane with the resources available at
That's
Tulane.
interesting.
He's an amazing coach. He's won every place he's been, and he's used to doing so much with so little. It would be mind-boggling to see what he could do if he had a plane and his own private army or whatever it is that Saban has. I think that Coach Jeff Traylor is someone that you should at least consider. Another guy that is just flat killing it and has done, like I said, a whole lot without that much. Obviously there's guys who've coached for and with Coach
Only
Saban.
three, Bill. Only three.
Well, I gave you two. I assume that means I get one more.
It's the new math. It's 2.
Right. Just checking. So I'm assuming that some of those guys will pop their heads up. I know that they want a big name, right? Because that's the natural inclination. But Saban was a big name when they hired him, right? But sometimes the biggest name isn't the best name. So I'll give you one other that I think is at least worth considering, because the way I look at the new world of college football, it used to be that you just wanted a guy that everybody knew their name, they're famous, and they put a lot of guys in the NFL. That's all you needed, right? That's all you needed. Now you need somebody who's got a certain amount of pizzazz, right? A certain amount of salesmanship to them. Even Saban has livened up, you know what I mean? Like the Saban you're seeing now, occasionally shows up on a TikTok video or something. He may not know he's on a TikTok video, but he shows up sometimes. That's a different guy from 20 years ago who just went into the office, grind, go home, right? He understands social media. Sort of, at least. I mean, enough to participate, at least. I don't know if he's posting himself, but at least he's participating. So the last coach, I think, would at least be worth considering, just because the landscape has changed, and just getting a big name, a name that's big to us is not a name that's big to a 19-year-old, or he's not even 19, 16-year-old. They're looking for someone who maybe has a different, who feels a different niche and will feel like someone they can, I don't know, relate to. I mean, it's a fine line. You don't want someone who's like truly a buddy, because that you get into problems with that. But you want someone that they relate to, that they think this is a dude I can talk to about my girlfriend problems and my brand, right? That's the big thing, growing my brand. Sharon Moore, if he isn't the coach at Michigan, should be interviewed for several reasons. One, terrific at building offensive lines. What was the weakness for Alabama this year, right? What was Alabama's? It sounds crazy to say it, right? But people talk about the quarterback play. They've won with worse quarterback play than that. Come on now. No offense to John Parker Wilson. No offense to Brody Croyle and, the whole list of other very mediocre quarterbacks they've won championships with. Shout out to McElroy and all the others. But their offensive line, that was not a Bama offensive line, right? Their defense took a little step back also, but they've won with defenses that were good but not great. But usually they would mash you in the offensive line. How did Michigan win? They mashed everybody. Even Iowa got mashed a little bit, at least, by that offensive line. That's Sharon Moore's baby. I've known Coach Moore since he's a tight ends coach years and years ago. We talk back and forth occasionally, and I congratulated him recently. And he's one of the brightest, most charismatic, smartest young coaches in America. Somebody is going to make him a head coach, and whoever that is going to be super happy they did it.
Bo, you got 3 candidates?
I don't. I hadn't thought that much about it. It's been a busy day since I saw that thing drop. So by the time this one's done, I'll have been on camera for 7 hours today. So I have done zero research of how I'd fill that. As soon as I saw that thing come across my phone, I was like, wait, Pete Carroll gets fired and Bama gets
what a day, right? What a day.
Weird stuff is
Mike
going on?
Vrabel, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Eberflus keeps his job. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah. So, Dave, how surprised were you about the news of Saban deciding to step down?
I was surprised. I wasn't expecting it at all. But then you got to consider how long has he been there, and how long is he going to continue doing it, especially with all these changes going on in football with all the conferences and the transfer portals and all that. So I think that it's kind of complicated the game, and maybe he reached a point of where, hey, I'll help out, or I'll just sit back for a while. But it's hit a new level football. But the thing I'd like to mention is what I wonder with these nationally based conferences now, instead of being geographically based, they're spread out all over the country. I'm just curious what the impact is going to be on all the other sports, the minor sports, and what happens to them with their travel budgets and all that kind of stuff. And hopefully they make enough money where, hey, they help them out and that they're not too adversely impacted.
So I got a question for you guys. So Saban retires. Say Bill gets booted, right? Say he does finally get fired. Did they just have the Curmudgeon Corner podcast together?
There you go.
Yeah, absolutely.
No title. On to the next podcast.
Angry football talk.
Right. Yeah.
All right, guys, that's enough with the senior bash in here.
Can I get one thing in on here, James?
Yes. I'll let you close it off.
Okay, I'll be quick. Lanning makes sense. Don't sleep on Florida State, Mike Norvell.
I like him.
But I'm gonna say one word just to be that dude, because I can't help myself. Prime.
Man, I don't think he'd be available. I don't think he's leaving Colorado, but I think people will love him down there. I don't think he's leaving Colorado though.
What would that look like, right?
Do you know that Governor Faubus just rolled over in his grave?
Well, that's Arkansas, but I know what you meant.
Whatever, some governor somewhere. But I mean, I think that if you're,
but you understand the people that I'm talking about. So
sure,
anyway,
sure.
yeah.
And by the way,
George Wallace.
Bama's not going anywhere, guys.
Yes.
Bama's not going anywhere, guys. That's a brand. Bama's not going anywhere. We did this when they lost to Texas like 3 months ago. We all got on. They're not going to. There's 12 teams in that thing next year, and I'm already at a point where, to me, the Big Ten is the NFC, and the SEC is the AFC, and the 12 teams are going to be 4 teams in NFC, 4 teams in AFC, and we'll fill in the rest with whatever team happens to have a good year, right? That's what 12 teams are going to look like. This is the way this is going to go, and I'm great with it. I love the fact that technically 2 Big Ten teams are in the championship, and we're not talking about it. We're making jokes. I think it's going to be fine. Bama's not going anywhere. If you think Bama's just going to fall off the face of the earth, you're out of your mind. That is a machine, and Saban was the driver of the bus. The bus still has the best engine in the world. It still has the best seats. It's got the best flight attendants because, yes, Alabama has flight attendants on their bus. Absolutely. It's still the best bus on the road, right? And the new dude might be driving it, but if it's the right guy, they're not falling off. I'm sorry. I don't. My parents are from Talladega and Riverside. I don't tolerate bashing of that state. Second only to the state of Michigan. So, they'll be there.
All right, guys. Well, hey, let's talk about NFL Black Monday. And we're going to start off talking about Mr. Ron Rivera here. Ron Rivera is out as the head coach of the Commanders. The Commanders were 26-40-1 under his tenure. Bo, do you think the Commanders look for new blood, or do they dip back into the good old boy network?
No, I think they go the new route because they have a lot of draft picks, new ownership group. Like if they're starting the slate over, like they obviously are, right? I mean, they fired everybody. So at this point, no, I think they get an up and coming, OC, or I mean, they probably do make a play for Harbaugh because I mean that could make sense too, especially because like everybody's going to want Harbaugh if he does come to the NFL for no other reason than he's going to be able to do some of the things Pete Carroll was able to do because no scout is going to have more information than Harbaugh on everybody that's in the NCAA right now because he watched them all in real time and played against them, right? So he's going to have one of the better draft classes because he was there, right? So I could see making a play for Harbaugh, or if they don't go that route, then it's probably going to be an up and coming OC, something like that.
Don, what do you think?
I thought long and hard on this. If Harbaugh comes available, I can see him doing that. But I saw on the wire day that Kellen Moore was being mentioned as a coach somewhere. Eric Bieniemy is still out there. Eric Bieniemy, I think, is due. I think he'd
Me
be a great
too.
fit for the Commander. So I would go with any of those three, to be honest. I guess Harbaugh would be considered the good old boy, and Moore and Bieniemy would be considered the new guys. But I think I would go the new guy, just myself. But that's just me.
Well, he's still understaffed now, right?
The enemy.
Yeah, I think he's still on as the OC right now.
Yeah.
I
I almost don't wish that job on the enemy though. Right? and the only reason I say that is, like, if you're a seasoned guy and you flame out there, you can recover from that. But if that's your first real shot and you tank hard, and let's be honest, Washington, odds are high. So, in that scenario, I don't know if he gets a second bite at the apple, right? So I almost kind of hope the enemy doesn't get that one with the number of opportunities that are going to be out there. Like that one made like career long-term. I mean, he either has to hit it or, that'd be rough. So I don't know. I hope he lands somewhere as a head coach, but Washington, maybe not.
What's your thoughts there, Reggie?
I think that it's an interesting situation. You got quite a few teams that can really change their fortunes in the draft this year, whether it's us here in Atlanta, Chicago, Washington. There's a few teams that if they nail their draft, they're going to be pretty competitive fairly quickly. They're not the long extended rebuilds that we're kind of used to seeing with some of these teams. I'm a fan of Bieniemy getting the job, but I'm a fan of Bieniemy getting a job in general. So it's like he'll be on a lot of my list, no matter where the job comes up. Harbaugh, I think, is going to be the shiny new toy that a lot of teams are going to try to get. To be honest with you, I feel like he's going to be the name coming off a national championship. His pedigree already in the NFL that he has already. There's going to be a lot of guys that are going to have him. A lot of teams are going to have him at the top of their list. So I do think that he'll definitely be the guy to turn it down. And I mean, you still got to interview and go and do all the hurdles, jump through all the hurdles, so to speak. But I think that he's going to be the number one guy they're going to go after. Now, you did hear the Bill Belichick out there a while for this. Like, there's a lot of before. I'm not even sure what's going on with him in New England, but there was a lot of talk about Josh Harris pursuing Belichick pretty hard. So it'd be interesting to see if that pans out. But I'm kind of with the guys here. I would like to see something a little bit new, to be honest with you, especially when you're starting. Take this opportunity to start over all the way and give a new person a shot. You never know. Look at what D'Amico did with the Houston Texans. Like, you never know if you take a shot on a great coordinator or somebody out there. So I'm kind of hoping they go in that direction.
Dave, what do you think? Demetrius says it's all about show me the money. It doesn't matter to him whether they get Harbaugh, as long as it's.
They have to show him the money for sure. By the way, I think any team.
I think the special challenge that Washington has is that over the past 20 years or whatever it was that Dan Snyder owned the team, is the relationship with the fans has just gone into the toilet. And so, like in Montgomery County, where I live right next to DC, that was solid Redskins territory when they were called the Redskins. Now that they're the Commanders, this is as much Ravens area as it is Washington, and we're right next to DC. And with the talk of moving the stadium to Virginia, they're still negotiating with DC. That's going to make it even more. So the ownership team has some special challenges, and so they need to really think hard on who they select to be as the coach. The nice thing about Harbaugh is he's very charismatic. He's somebody that would definitely probably draw notice. But is that good enough? I think that they also want somebody that's going to be here for 4 or 5 years to kind of rebuild the brand. Maybe Eric Bieniemy might be a good choice if they feel that he has the charisma and then he would stick around. And I think that the fans would rally around him if they were able to improve. But they have, I think, a special challenge, and they need to think hard. And so on the one hand, I think that Harbaugh would be good because of the instant notoriety that gets the buzz going. But on the other hand, if he's here for 2-3 years and then is gone, that might not be what they're looking for. Because I think that they're looking for a long-term rebuilding of their brand.
Bill, give us your
Well-
final thoughts on this subject here.
Sure. I mean, the short list that I have in my mind, and you've already heard names like Mike McDonald and Todd Monken, obviously, from not that far away, in the Ravens building. But other people that should at least get consideration include Press Taylor. Of course, his brother is the head coach, Zach, of the Bengals. He's a bright, upcoming offensive coordinator of the Jaguars. I keep mentioning Alonzo Pep Hamilton. I guess I'll never stop doing that, but that's a guy that is working in television, which is ridiculous. He should be coaching. And then another name you're going to hear bandied about a lot is 37-year-old Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator of the beloved.
Absolutely. Very, very popular name right now.
Yes, of our friend Mr. Verdi's beloved Lions. and I'll give you one last one that's maybe not quite so obvious or not quite so right down the pipe, but I think is someone whose name certainly should be considered. I mean, and you're going to hear some noise even around Vrabel as well, but I think he wants to maybe do something else for a year and get his life right or whatever, and then come back, but we'll see. But someone else that I think at least should be considered, should at least get an interview, bring him into the building, however we want to put it. And I've never understood what it was that Jim Caldwell did that like what or didn't do or whatever. The guy has once again won at Wake Forest. He won at Detroit. Every place he's been, he's won. He was a successful coach when he was in Indianapolis. He's been a good assistant. He understands offensive football at a super high level. He is not a young kid. So maybe if they're looking for a young kid, he's not that, but he's incredibly stable. He's the kind of person someone said, about somebody who sort of settles things down. That's Jim Caldwell. He does a great job of settling things down. He's about as uncontroversial a coach as you're ever going to find. But most importantly, he develops young quarterbacks. Look at his track record. Like Pep Hamilton, both those guys have that in common, that they've done everywhere they've gone. They've done a great job of working with and improving young quarterbacks.
Let's see. Where do we want to go next here? Reggie, the Falcons fired their head coach, Arthur Smith.
Thank God.
After their season of inconsistency. Reggie, give us a glimpse into the rumor mill about his replacement. And
Thanks God, the dude can't feed his family.
I think that he comes from. I don't think he's in any breadlines anytime soon, given his lineage there, where he comes from.
His family does just fine.
I think he'll be all right. We got to start a GoFundMe for the guy. But at the end of the day, we're very excited he's gone. I mean, we're mired in mediocrity down here. How many? When you look at this past season, guys, they wanted Bill Belichick fired 4 losing seasons in 23 years. They wanted him out of there. Mike Tomlin, there were the blasphemous Mike Tomlin comments I would hear was absolutely ridiculous. The guy just has never lost. So you want him out of there, of course. Of course, it's a time for a change of pace for a guy that's never lost. Right. But a guy in Atlanta who loses 10 games a season, there were some people who were like, oh, well, I feel kind of bad for the guy. And like, no, he sucked. Yeah. The first coach to lose 10 seasons, three seasons in a row for Atlanta. There's a lot of the names that you're hearing, a lot of the popular names that people are throwing out there. You're hearing if Belichick would leave. You're hearing names like, of course, people wouldn't mind a Ben Johnson. I think that's a popular name right now, especially depending on how they finish out their playoff run. He could become even more popular name out there right now. But I think that it's whether you want an older coach or you just want to start over is kind of the conversation I'm hearing down here. So people are like, do we want a Pete Carroll? Do we want a Bill Belichick? Or do we want to go in one of these new OCs? I wouldn't mind Bieniemy down here at all. I would love Bieniemy down here with the offensive weapons that we have. I'd give him a chance to do what he has to do. Give him a quarterback that he can draft and see if he can turn things around fairly quickly. So those are the kind of things that people are talking about. It seems from what I'm hearing, the old versus new tends to be the conversation. Like that tends to be where people are kind of, do we go with somebody that's been around, or do we just start fresh totally with a new OC type of player, type of coach?
Bo, we now know that Pete Carroll is out as the coach up there in Seattle. That was, kind of, I guess
Shock.
a lot of people thought,
Yeah, that was shocking for sure.
I mean, coming right on the heels of the Nick Saban announcement. I mean, what's going on in Seattle there? Bo,
Man,
any replacement talk? I mean, like you said, I mean,
No.
it kind of came out of the blue. So, what's going on?
All I can figure is they have some sort of plan, because otherwise this is a horrible move. Because let's be honest,
He had some sort of a plan, Bo.
I mean, there must be, because at the end of the day, there's not a lot of coaching options that are going to be an upgrade from Pete Carroll, right? So maybe they're trying to make a play for Harbaugh also, right? And the only reason I say that is it would mirror exactly how Pete Carroll got there, right? Yeah. Win a national championship, right? Dodge an NCAA suspension, and then have a great draft class because you just had all those guys. So then maybe you win a ring, right? Like, I mean, the formula works. So, I could see them going after that. The only thing about that scenario is Harbaugh is a unique individual and personality-wise, right? And the way that this has gone down with Pete Carroll is it sounds like he's still going to be in the building. And it's not like they were best friends when they played against each other in the NFC West. So having them in the same building, the fact that I'm in Seattle and would be covering it, I am here for it. That kind of disaster sounds hilarious. And, so I'll be working hard to get media credentials because I want to be in that room. But yeah, outside of that, I mean, I don't know how many options are really out there that's an upgrade from Pete. So hopefully they have their eye on somebody, because if they were just willy-nilly going after it, I don't love the approach.
You said he's still in the building. What is he doing? Like, that's like he's divorcing somebody and keeping your wife, keeping her around. Like, you're staying roommates. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
somebody got to cook. Rich.
Yeah, I mean, the side chick is the baby mama, and you kept the wife. So, for whatever reason, he's going to be in the front office somewhere, and that just sounds like a recipe for disaster. But again,
especially with a Harbaugh type, for sure.
Right? Yeah. Like, nothing good can come out of that. So as a fan, I'm like, man, I hope they don't do that. As an analyst, I'm like, man, could we do that? Like,
please. That's sort of like what Tampa Bay did a couple of years ago with Bruce Arians. But what about the coordinators that Seattle has? Do you think that there's any chance that either of them might be considered?
Definitely not. No, those guys were probably getting fired anyway. I mean, honestly, they probably were, because they weren't able to do enough things this season. I understand it was a winning record technically, but they weren't able to do things. The defense was still ranked really low. Some of that is because the offense couldn't stay on the field. And then the offense, obviously Waldron gets a lot of hate for it, but it's not entirely his fault. He lost his offensive line in the first half of the first game, and he didn't get them back until like week 15. So, I mean, I don't know how much success you're really dialing up during that anyway. But at the end of the day, the NFL is a what have you done for me lately league, and they don't care about the excuses why it didn't get done. So both of those guys were probably on their way out. I could see them targeting Dan Quinn, bringing him back, nice. Something like that. But, and of course, if you have Pete Carroll in the front office, you still have Schneider as the GM. You bring in Dan Quinn as your new coach. Like, I could see that dynamic working because he was our, DC when we went to a Super Bowl. So, I mean, it's not exactly like they don't get along or the relationship wouldn't work. The relationship with Harbaugh is great. That doesn't seem like it'd work. It'd be funny, but I don't think it'd work. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, is there a chance they maybe bring Canales back?
I mean, maybe. Like, I mean, at this point, as weird as this firing seems to be, because there was only 1 year left anyway, I mean, I wouldn't put anybody off the table. I mean, because again, they got to have some sort of plan here. Or I'm hoping. As a fan, I'm hoping.
Mr. Scott, how are you doing this evening?
Very good, very good. Happy New Year to you, gentlemen. I'm sure.
Absolutely. Happy New Year, my friend.
Gentleman in the middle was just hoping, had his fingers crossed that I wouldn't show up. Ernie Shavers is here. He's here now, and we're going to call roll. So
Ernie Shavers showed up at Muhammad Ali's gym, and Muhammad Ali was scared. Is what I'm hearing. Sorry, I don't understand that.
So before we turn this into Demetrius and Anthony Scott,
I'm good. My team is 12-5, about to host a home playoff game.
Crossover.
I don't give a damn about
Kenny Norton crossover.
So, Mr. Scott, what did you think about Pete Carroll getting fired?
Well, just like I think about, sometimes your time just runs out. I mean, you cannot do these things forever. I mean, Vince Lombardi had to leave. Joe Gibbs had to leave. I mean, you can't be anointing like some of you hear like you, JK3 and Dave. They want to anoint and anoint the person in Pittsburgh like he's just but these things have to change. I mean, I think he's run his course there. Time to move on.
And what playoff games are the Vikings playing this week?
Well, that has nothing to do with
that's what I thought.
That has nothing to do with the current.
You talk about anointing. We're anointing the Vikings to the last place in the worst division.
Well, that's I'm throwing a flag on that. I'm gonna throw a flag on that. Really, I mean, I'm throwing a flag on that because I was asked the question and I was graciously answering the question.
Let's become the late show real quick.
Don, what did you think about the firing of Pete Carroll?
Well, like I said, eventually time runs out for you, right? Someone said that. Father Time is the enemy of us all. I think Pete Carroll needs to how old is he? He's like 75, 76, right?
He's the oldest coach in the league, Pete Carroll.
I think he's 71 actually, but
he's older than I am. Don,
where's Bill when you need Bill?
Next month.
He's 71 or 72.
Bill would know his age, his date of birth, city of birth, middle name.
Yeah. His dog's middle name.
Sometimes you gotta know. Yeah. But sometimes you just gotta know when to quit. I mean, eventually we're all professionals, we all have jobs. Eventually one day, it's time to trade that lunch pail and get the fishing pole. You just got to do it. You got to know when to do it. And he might get hired somewhere else. I mean, I think he's a good coach, but eventually, you're at that age and your energy starts running low. And I wish he had been able to go out on his own terms, to be honest. But I don't see another team picking him up. They might. But again, with all the young guys coming up through the ranks, I heard a while ago Lincoln Riley might be in the NFL soon. So, I mean, there's so many young guys looking for jobs. And if you're a team owner, you're going to say, do I take this guy that's, 36 or I take this guy that's 72? I don't know. I'll probably go into the young guy.
Oh, okay. Mr. Scott, Raiders owner Mark Davis commended interim coach Antonio Pierce for leading the team to a 5-4 record under his tenure. Mr. Scott, do you think the Raiders will retain Antonio Pierce as their head coach in 2024?
Well, I don't know, but I mean, I think they should. The Raiders have been kind of down, and maybe this is some new spark, a new energy. They need a quarterback. They need, Yeah, I think that would be a very good move, to bring in new people. And it's again, these things rotate, and the great coaches have always moved and had to move at some period in time. So I think that would be a great move, to give some of the young guys a chance to give them a chance to lead. Even though, I understand that there's some bitterness against, me and some of my stances, and that's fine. People being bitter, it's never bothered me. It really hasn't. It never really has.
Should have brought popcorn to this.
We'll just call you Eggplant, Mr. Scott. That bitter pill. So what did you think, Demetrius? Should the Raiders retain Antonio, or should they look elsewhere?
No, I actually agree with Mr. Scott. Shockingly, guys, I agree with him. He's right. So I think that in life, in sports and everything, you would like to think you earned it. Whatever it is, you'd like to think you earned it. I don't know that there's a better display of somebody earning a job than what Antonio Pierce is. He earned that job. His players like him. He is winning. But I do not live in a world where I believe that just because someone is a billionaire, and Ranger Hayes always agrees with. Is that Ranger Hayes or is that somebody else? I don't know. Yep. But the guy goes to the barber that he goes to, so I'm not sure he's that smart. I don't know how smart Mark Davis is, just on his barbershop choices, right? So I don't know that he's smart enough to listen to me and Mr. Scott and say he doesn't really have that much work to do. His players have said verbally and through their play, this is our coach, and all he's got to do is listen. But I don't think billionaire owners of football teams have ever really developed that skill set. Listening, not that well. So, of course, he deserves a job. But I think Mark Davis will want to make a splash. He'll make a call to Harbaugh. He'll try and get some big name because he won't see what's right there next door to him in the building. So my guess, the answer is yes, they should. But if you ask me to put some money on it, I would say they won't.
What's your thoughts on this, Reggie? What if Mr. Pierce becomes available?
Well, despite Mr. Scott's Tomlin stray, that Tomlin caught a stray there somewhere in
unnecessary.
there. Unnecessary. Yeah, an unnecessary stray thrown at Mike Tomlin, who's just in the playoffs. But who just wins every season he's ever coached. I will say that I agree with him. He deserves a shot. Like let's make up for the garbage decision to get Rich Bisciotti out of there. Like that was a garbage decision. You should have kept him. Yep. And let's atone for that by keeping in Antonio Pierce, who's in a similar situation where he comes in and the guys are at least playing for him, guys, right? We could say the guys are out there competing for him. And there's no other better cosign than your players. So sometimes your players sign off, and that's a sign. You'll have a coach there, and your players, you can tell, are checked out, and that can be a sign for a coach. These players appear checked in, and I feel like I don't know if I'm ready to give the guy 10 years, $100 million. Hopefully he's learned his lesson on that. But at the same time, he deserves a shot. Pierce should be coaching there next year, in my opinion.
Okay. Bill, Panthers owner David Tepper, he bought the team in the summer of 2018. So far, he's had 6 head coaches, including a couple interims. Head coach Frank Wright was fired after just 11 games. Bill, is this a coaching job? I know there's only 32 teams, but is this one that you might want to avoid?
Do we actually have Bill? Because I'll jump in and do my Bill impersonation.
Bill kind of pops in and out.
It's fine. I'm just kidding. You're
gonna say how many ice cubes in Tepper's glass before you threw it out there?
Go ahead, Dimitri.
David Tepper was born in Richmond, Virginia, and his grandmother. No, I joke. So the thing about these owners again, this guy is a rich billionaire. Doesn't mean he's smart. He probably ran a business. I think he ran a hedge fund. It doesn't mean he knows how to run an NFL team, right? Running a hedge fund and running an NFL team are not the same thing. Robert Kraft should get more credit because what he did was he used a 6th-round pick for the greatest quarterback in history, whose billionaire wife supplemented the salary cap, and he stayed out the way. That's what he did. That's the Patriot way, right? And there have been others. I think there's a reason the Cowboys haven't won anything meaningful in 30 years. I think it's their owner. And just to piss off Mr. Scott, I'm going to tell you who's done it right. A lady named Sheila Hamp 3 years ago took over my team, hired a brilliant GM and a badass head coach, and she got out of the way. And she let them take our team from laughing stock 3 years ago to division champ, serious threat in the playoffs 3 years later. That's what an owner should be. Just hire the people who know what they're doing and get out of the way and let them do their job. Nothing about David Tepper strikes me as someone who can or will do that. I don't know if that's the skill set that makes you a successful hedge fund manager. It's the same skill set you can drop in as the owner of an.
Well, see, Demetrius, now what you're saying is you're really talking about the GM, Adolfo Minso, who Bill has said is such a guru, comes from Wall Street, knows all the analytics and all these things. Yes. What do you know about football?
We're talking owners now. Your GM's good. Your GM's good. Bill's not wrong. Your GM is fantastic. I'm talking ownership. Ownership. The owner needs to get out of the way because he's not a football guy. He's a hedge fund manager.
Well,
so hire a smart GM, hire a smart coach, and let them do their jobs.
None of the owners are football guys. None of the owners are.
Well, don't tell Jerry Jones that.
Yeah, right. Now, the problem is Tepper really needed to get out of the way.
When you think you are, that's your downfall. Yeah.
Right, that's the problem.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Tepper needed to get out of the way before now, though, because at this point, this is the least sexy head coaching job of all of them. Right?
Yes.
You have no talent. You have no talent. Well, not just because of him, but because of the things that happened. So you take him out of the equation. You have no talent on your team. You have no draft picks.
No draft capital, for sure.
Right? Like you gave all those away. What you have is Bryce Young and the land of misfit toys. And no way to get...
And your salary cap isn't healthy either.
No.
You don't have a healthy salary cap. You got a bunch of dead money on your cap as well.
Like literally everything about that team says, do not take this job.
But guess what? Somebody's going to take it and get a fat check to do it.
Yeah.
Charlotte's a beautiful city. Hey, Bo, Charlotte's a beautiful city.
They're going to be there for 6 months. And
Exactly.
so in that scenario, like I would take the job, right? I would take the job. I'm going to be out by week 8, drinking beer on a yacht, watching football.
And get all the money. Get a guaranteed deal. You know you're getting fired in 2 months anyway.
Right?
Get that money. Exactly.
Yeah, man.
It's
Don't
a
sell your
brilliant
house,
idea.
fellas. Don't sell your house. I'll tell you that.
You rent. You don't buy.
You'll be right back there pretty quickly.
Yeah, you probably just sleep in your office, honestly.
Exactly.
Bill, the Bears bring back their head coach, Matt Eberflus, but fire the offensive coordinator, Luke Getzey, and the others. Is it rather strange that Eberflus has been retained? We talked about this many times. I mean, other than, I know I changed his name to Uberfloss. Anything else?
It was good. It flowed.
It was great.
So, Bill, what do you think about Uberfloss's retention? And do you think that Justin Fields will be in a Bears quarterback next season?
Well, I mean, that's probably why I was already thinking they were probably going to stick with Fields. The fact that they're bringing back, I guess he's Coach Untermensch by this point, because his name keeps changing. But the fact that they've retained the head coach gives me a strong impression that they're not about to blow it up and start over again. Right. Yep. So I already suspected they were sticking with Fields. And if you watched Bears games, and I watched them all, you could see a steady trend line going up of his improvement. Now, still, he's essentially about the 22nd or so best quarterback in the NFL right now. That is either very depressing if you are a Bears fan or very exciting if you're someone thinking, oh, so much room for improvement. But the fact is that they have not found, at least thus far, that person who is a crackerjack, fantastic, bet all your money on them quarterback developer. And if they want to be the team they want to be, even if they did move on from Fields, if they don't have someone to develop whoever it is they bring in, it won't matter. None of the quarterbacks who are coming out in this draft class are plug them in right away. They want starters. There's no Andrew Luck. There's no Cam Newton. None of those guys that you can just say, okay, we're throwing that guy out there and he's going to start for us. All the guys that are coming out are guys that need something to be ready to play at a high level in the NFL. And that, at least in some cases, that something is time. So I think that they did the math. They looked at the quarterbacks and said, there's guys we like, but nobody we love. And we're going to use this incredible amount of draft capital we have because, thank you, Carolina Panthers, we can essentially control the chessboard early. We could trade down with one or both of those picks, get a bunch more picks, and fix our offensive line, find a number one or number two, depending on what you think about the wide receiver class, to go with DJ Moore. We can find a mismatched pass rusher to be the other pass rusher with Montez Sweat. We can find a top flight corner to put with Jalen Johnson. If you come up with all those things, a starting left tackle, at least one really good interior offensive, one really good interior defensive line piece, a top flight corner, and a top flight wide receiver, no matter what happens with Justin Fields, he's going to look better because he's on a better team. Fun fact, Thomas Edward Patrick Brady was pretty darn good, but he looked so good, at least in part, because he's on a really good team. He never knew what it was like to be on a team that was rebuilding or had a bunch of pieces missing. He went from the team he was on was already on its way to the Super Bowl, for those who've somehow forgotten. And they might have won one or two with Drew Bledsoe, which somehow people have like men in blacked out of their memory. They would have won at least one, maybe two with Drew Bledsoe. And so he didn't go because he was the 199th pick. He never had to go through what these guys are going to be picked in the top 5 or 6 picks go through. We go to a terrible team and everyone says, oh, please save us. He was what the heck? Our quarterback's coach loves the kid. What the hell is pick 199? Sure, we'll take your kid. And he just happened to go to a place where they had an incredible defense, one of the great coaches and tacticians, strategists, and rule savants of all time. They had a very disciplined bunch of players and coaches. They self-imposed an incredible level of grind on everybody. And if you didn't get with the program, they got you the hell out of there quickly. It was a very disciplined, grind, like obsessed organization. And guess what? That's what he loved. He went into the best situation for him, and he blossomed into this guy that we
classic Bill Carroll. An uber floss question turned into a retrospective on the Patriot dynasty. What the hell? What's that happen?
It's when you fall asleep in 1:30 for 30 and you're in the middle of the next one.
Right. Wait, did somebody change my channel? What?
I mean, it still says 30 for 30 in the corner.
I see where you're going, Bill. I see where you're going.
But you see the point I'm making. If you build the right system around the guy will become a better quarterback, right?
Sure.
Okay. Let's see here. I think I'm going to go with you here, Bo. The Chargers replace their GM, Tedesco, and their head coach, Brian Staley. So do you think the Chargers are going to stay in-house and go with Kellen Moore?
No, I think they made it obvious they're not going to do that. They did. They elevated Giff Smith, which until they did that, I had no idea who that human was. So, he was a linebacker coach. I mean, so it was, I know that publicly they said, oh, we just didn't want to distract our offensive coordinator, which that sounds weird because there's plenty of OCs that are head coaches. So that's, that doesn't make any sense. So no, I don't think they stay in-house. Honestly, I don't think Kellen Moore ends up still with the Chargers. Like whoever comes in as the new GM and the new head coach, they're going to bring whatever staff they want. So, I mean, Kellen Moore may be one of those guys that's looking for a head coaching job during this time too.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Dave, the Titans fire Mike Vrabel after 6 seasons, and they actually decided against trying to trade him. The owner did make a good question, the coach has to want to be traded also. Some say that he's going to be the Pats' new head coach. Titans GM says that Derrick Henry's future with the team will be discussed with the new head coach.
Nobody told Derrick Henry, it seems like.
Right? That's what I was thinking.
Eric just found out watching the Sports Crib. Yeah.
The conspiracy theorists in Steelers Nation believe that Roger Goodell put out the order after the Titans beat Jacksonville to put the Steelers into the playoffs. But
Nice.
really, I was really
Manny sandwiches all around, Dave.
I loved the thing, and I loved his rant when he was talking about when somebody asked him about the game and losing, and he was talking about how much he hates losing, and they went out and played hard, even though they had no reason to really play hard. With Derrick Henry, I didn't think that he was going to be sticking around, and he's 30, and I believe he's open for free agency. So for him, I would be trying to find, where am I going to land where I'm going to make the most money? Because it's probably going to be his last opportunity for a big paycheck. So I'll be surprised if Derrick Henry stays. I'm just surprised that they gave up on Mike Vrabel the way they did. I think that he's a good coach, and it'll be interesting to see where he lands.
If I could interject on that part right there, Vrabel's soundbite was the most priceless thing. When he was just like, "Did you have another thought? Like, are you?" That press conference was amazing.
Yes.
And if I could jump in on the Derrick Henry thing, there's no more big contracts for Derrick Henry.
Right.
We know how running backs are treated.
Right. I think he just
And
had
the
his
way
last one.
Right. The way contracts are structured in that league is it is years, which gets you a bonus that they give you up front. Nobody's signing him for 5 years. Nobody's signing him for 4 years.
Nope.
Say it with me. Nobody's signing him for 3 years. So if he's going to get a 1-year deal somewhere, it'll be great money for anybody on this podcast. There's no more big deals for Derrick, which is fine.
Yeah, it'll be like Delvin Cook. It'll be like the Delvin Cook. Kind of thing. Yeah.
That's what
Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
man.
it will be a 1 year with a 2nd-year option.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if he's smart, he just finds a team that's got a chance to get him a championship, because that's where he is in the stage of his career.
Chasing the ring right now.
He's a ring chaser, right? Become a ring chaser.
Yeah, the only thing he's owed is some deferred bonus money. They owe him no salary. The Tennessee Titans still owe him $2,367,647 in deferred bonus money. That's all they owe him.
Let's hope he's been good. If he's done well with his money, now he becomes a ring chaser.
Yep.
Mr. Scott, what did you think about the Titans situation?
I thought, Vrabel was a good coach. I mean, didn't really have a quarterback. And so, this is really how you win these games. I mean, when it really comes down to it, if you don't have a really, you got to have the defense and you have to have that quarterback that can lead this team through. And when you're continuing to change like that, that's a recipe for difficulty. Now, I would have let him weather that and say, let's try to get a quarterback for this guy, and let's try to regroup. I would have gave him another opportunity. So, but I think he's going to catch on somewhere. I mean, he's a really good football guy, and I don't think he'll have a problem. So they're starting over then, and Derrick Henry probably won't be there. So they're going to have to change their whole modus operandi.
Yeah. I won't be surprised if Vrabel actually gets an interview for the Alabama job.
That's not a bad.
I will take him.
That's not a bad idea.
That
would be a great
quickly.
It might not be a bad idea, but I think Mr. Kraft has some plans of his own.
I think that's a lazy ESPN take.
The Titans about an hour ago did request a meeting with Dan Quinn, though.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay, Demetrius, you've been waiting.
Oh, okay, cool. So apologies to everybody. I've never taken as much time as I'm about to take. I'll give you guys a bunch of time back on all the other topics. I promise. This I don't generally fester. I've been blessed by God with the ability to process stuff and move on, but not this. So I'm jumping right in.
Is it time for the NFL to hire full-time officials?
So here's the deal, guys. This league that we love has a problem, right? I love analogies. Big fan. Bill has a great saying I love. I wanted to use it. He will refer to entities or even people as unstoppable killing machines. That's one of his sayings. I always love that one. And as it relates to the revenue generating business model, the NFL is an unstoppable killing machine, and they have been for some time. But today I'm not going with that one. Today I'm going to go with the Titanic, right? The Titanic, guys, was a completely avoidable disaster, right? Whether you believe the fiction or the fact, and I read a lot about it, a guy screams, iceberg, dead ahead. And the captain, in this case, we call him Roger, just for shits and giggles, right? The captain's like, bro, I'm driving the Titanic. The Titanic is unsinkable. I don't care about no iceberg. I'm driving the Titanic, right? But the thing about an iceberg is you just see the tip and the surface. It is really an indicator telling you below the surface is a much, much bigger problem. And much like the Titanic, I think our league has a problem because a few years ago, they decided I'm going to use get in bed with Vegas or go to Vegas as a metaphor. I'm talking about embrace gambling. Your biggest partner has their own gambling site. They have TV shows about wagering. You changed your business when you got in bed with Vegas. When that happened, your number one priority, your number one concern should have been integrity of my game. People cannot question the results of our game, right? You had to change that. And nothing will bring into question the integrity of your game faster and more emphatically than the sniff of corrupted officiating, right? The NBA is still trying to shake the stench from one rogue dude 17 years ago.
Yep.
If you want people to question the integrity of your game, officiating is the way to do it. And we have seen incompetent officiating at a high level this year. In general, for years. New Orleans, Minnesota playoff game, years ago. Iceberg, dead ahead. That's what I'm here to be that dude.
You know,
for Raj, iceberg, dead ahead.
It's funny. That actually makes them, only playing one of the games on Peacock make a ton of sense. Because who can watch?
Right. So what happened last Saturday night in Dallas? Right. What's been happening all season? What's been happening for years? This is what it is, right? I could do this from a Lions perspective, but I'm really not, right? Because as a Lions fan, I got over it pretty quickly. Somebody said to me, they should change that result. They don't do that. That's not what it is. I'm a Lions fan. I've seen this movie. I saw them change the rules of what a catch is to screw us out of a win in Chicago when Calvin clearly scored. They said, no, we're not going to admit we got that wrong. We're just going to redefine a fucking catch. That was their answer. That was the answer to screwing the Lions out of that game. KJ Wright bats the ball out of the end zone in 2015 or whatever. They don't care because they're the Titanic. They're unsinkable. I'm telling you, you're in Vegas now. The rules are iceberg, dead ahead. I'm telling you, people are genuine. I looked at so much shit on Twitter last week, and it went from the simple to the absurd. Like Brad Allen's home address is on Twitter. That is ridiculous human behavior. That shouldn't happen. I don't care who you are, but there's stuff like people are going, this game is rigged. ESPN spends 2 hours every morning talking about the Cowboys. They need the Cowboys to win. This is not that hard. When people start questioning whether your game is rigged, iceberg, dead ahead, that's what I'm telling them. This is 2024, everything. So it wasn't even Brad Allen. Because guys, what happened last Saturday was a human being made a mistake. That's all that actually happened. One human being made a mistake. But the league's response is what I've been pissed about for 10 days. Because they came out, tried to blame the Lions. Some asshole jumps on TV and says, they were in an illegal formation. No, they weren't. If the reporting goes the way it should have, they were properly. Ryan Clark did a great thing on it, right? Rex Ryan nailed it. Then they come out and kick out some bullshit video a couple days later. This is how you report. And all that did was showed that the Lions did exactly what they were supposed to do.
Exactly.
And then they kicked out dumb shit like, oh, the Lions were trying to be deceptive to the other team. Well, no shit. That. No shit. And you know how often that happens? Every game, every week, in every team. Every time you run to the line and act like you're going to snap to get them to jump off sides, you're trying to deceive the other team. Every time you send a guy in motion, you're trying to deceive. Every play action pass, you're trying to deceive the other team. So yes, it's simple. Number 70, Dan Skipper, is the third tight end in our jumbo package. He reports 5 times a game, 7 times a game. That play, the design of the play, Ben Johnson was sitting in the office Tuesday and said, what if we have Skipper run on and act like he's reporting, but we actually report Decker? We're trying to fool Dallas. You know who can't fall for the banana in the tailpipe? The fucking ref. Good job. You cannot fall for it. And that's all that happened. It worked too good. We tricked the ref. So then afterwards, the league could have just observed the 5 rules of contrition. Guys, I'm going to tell you, if you get in a fight with your wife, something happens, there's simple rules to get through it. You can't jump right to 5 and say it won't happen again. There's 4 more things you got to do, right? The first thing you got to do is acknowledge that it happened. Don't tell her, I'm sorry you saw it that way. I'm sorry you took it that way. Don't say that, bro. Don't say that. Don't say that. Right? So last Sunday, there should have been a tweet that said, unfortunate events happened in Dallas last night. Now you've acknowledged it happened. Second thing, acknowledge the impact. Unfortunately, these events could cost the Lions the 2 seed and a division round home playoff game. You acknowledged it. Third thing, hardest one. None of us like to do it. It's the worst. My fault, right? You send that tweet from the account of Brad Allen. We're good. Now, the dude who fucked up has acknowledged that he did it and he knows how bad it hurt us. Number 4 is I feel bad about it. We regret that this happened. Simple. Then you can say it won't happen again. Kick out your bullshit video 2 days later. That's accountability. And it's not hard. We've seen it in Detroit. I'll tell you guys on your off time, Google Jim Joyce, Armando Galarraga, 2010. Yep. Jim Joyce is a baseball umpire, one of the best in the game. In 2010, he's on first base. Armando Galarraga is pitching a perfect game. Not a no-hitter, a perfect game. Ground ball in the 9th inning. Jim Joyce calls the guy safe. 15 seconds later, the replay hits the big screen, and he's out. He's clearly out. It's so clearly out. Jim Joyce stood there for another hour, listening to the fans call his mama every name in the book. Right? Hour later, in the locker room, Jim Joyce looked at the cameras and said, I kicked it. Universal ump language for I missed the call. I kicked it. I cost that kid a perfect game. Jim Joyce manned up, grown man accountability. He said, I kicked that call and cost that kid a perfect game. And you know what? The man had tears in his eyes when he said it. That's what accountability looks like. So the next day, Jim Joyce is on home plate. Galarraga brings out the lineup card because that's how petty we are in Detroit. We sent the lineup card out. You got to face this man. And Jim Joyce looked that dude in the eye and said, I did that. That's on me. That's what grown man accountability looks like. But the NFL thinks they're the Titanic. Can't be sunk. So they do anything and everything to cover their refs. Anything. Don't talk about the refs, you get fined. Don't question. Guys, it's not about corruptness. It's about incompetence. And the fix is so easy. I know I've heard Bill Carroll say it. I know I've heard James say it. I've heard a bunch of people say it. And it's not that hard. Full-time refs, training classes, film study, have them work UFL games, have an independent panel grade their performance week in and week out and publicize the results. Hold them accountable. What happened in Dallas wasn't the worst. Like I said, the Saints, I think, got robbed 5-7 years ago. My God. Way worse. So what happened in Dallas doesn't bother me. The Lions are a good team, and if they're as good as I think they are, they can go on the road and win games. They're going to go where they're going to go. I'm happy with my team. That can't keep happening. You think the integrity of your game is safe because you're busy trying to put a game on every fucking platform available to man. You're trying to play games in Frankfurt and Barcelona and all that bullshit, right? Your game is in danger because you are not taking that iceberg dead ahead, and you're not seeing it. You're not seeing it, and it's going to mess up our game. You will never lose me.
The ref could have just came out and been like, you know what? I feel bad. I nailed my parlay. Brought to you by Dragon.
Exactly. But that's where we are. See, that's where we are.
That's where we are. If it's in your parlay, you're happy. This is where it gets down to, like Dave was saying the other day, and he's talking about Bill Mazeroski. I was talking about Bucky Dent winning. This is where the purity Bucky Dent choking up all the way up on the bat. And he hits it over the Boston wall, and they win. That's where the purity to me of the game comes in. We don't really want it to come down to the refs.
For sure.
I mean, that's where to me it takes some of the excitement out of it. If it's got to come down to the refs and the call, and it's difficult to make these calls. I just got
I mean,
we can accept the refs are human will make mistakes, though, right? We can accept that if they come out and they be accountable. But if a ref clearly fucks up and the league tries to blame the Lions and kick out dumb people,
absolutely,
right, exactly. If you handle it like Jim Joyce, and I'm telling you that Major League Baseball handles something better than the National Football League 17 years ago, right? That's bizarre to me. That's how you handle it. Detroit's over it. We like Jim Joyce. I gained respect for Jim Joyce because he handled it like a grown man.
You know, I agree with what you're saying, Demetrius, about the iceberg. But I don't think that it's a slight course alteration that's going to save it.
No,
I think, and frankly, I think there's an inherent conflict of interest in the NFL hiring and paying the referees directly. Because in every single game, look, just give me a second here. Every single game, they're making money off of the TV and the streaming. What keeps people watching? How close are the games? Now, they're direct employees, the officials, they know that. And so now it's kind of a inherent thing of like, okay, well, maybe if the other team is falling behind, you know, maybe we give them a call.
So you're making my point. You're questioning the integrity of the game right now. This is what I'm talking about.
But because right. there's an inherent conflict. And to me, what has to happen is I think that the officials should be working for an organization that's separate from the NFL. And
who pays the organization,
right? How do they get paid, Dave?
The NFL.
The organization gets paid by the NFL, but the officials work for that organization. They're bonded, they're certified, so that you have somebody like Ernst & Young, somebody that
like an auditor or something like that,
to audit the program to ensure that their competency and their objectivity.
Yeah, that's why I said independent panel grading refs and publishing the results on a weekly basis.
I mean,
I would go one step further where they're working for an independent organization.
That's all great. Totally. But as my dad would say, strange things happen when money's involved.
Sure.
That's why I made Vegas a part of my point. When you did that, integrity of your game became the top priority. Yeah. I don't care if the game's on Amazon or Peacock. Doesn't matter. I'm going to find the Lions no matter where you put them. Because that's who I am.
15 years ago, they forced the Steelers to reorganize their ownership because they owned a dog track.
Yep.
And they had 49% interest in the casino. And the NFL forced the Pittsburgh to reorganize their ownership. And then some of the Rooney family had to get out of football.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
They do a lot of they find players for the colors of their shoes.
Pittsburgh, the Steelers have an official gambling sponsor.
Exactly. I mean, did that. The integrity of the game is in question now, and that's what I mean. That's the iceberg. I mean, you're ignoring the iceberg, talking about platforms, streaming platforms.
So
all the leagues have an auditor because we shouldn't have guys like Angel Hernandez still around.
Exactly. Why is he doing
it? So Don, what's your thoughts on this? Should we hire full-time officials? Should the officials be a part of the NFL? What's your thoughts on this whole thing, Don?
And go.
No, we don't have it. It's usually only about 5 seconds.
I know exactly.
Can you hear us, Don?
We have him. We just don't have him currently.
That's actually a picture of him on a fake background.
He just wants us to believe him.
Don, can you hear us?
Oh, we got him. I saw him blink.
It might be Morse code.
I guess he can't hear us now.
He can't hear us.
So let's go on to the next one here. Let's talk about Jordan Love. Packers quarterback Jordan Love did something that Brett Favre and Ayahuasca couldn't do. He led the Packers to the playoffs in his rookie season. Bo, did the fans sleep on Love?
Is this like a rookie on a tier system?
Yeah.
A fourth-year rookie?
Right.
No, like, I mean, he had a head start, right? Like, he's been in this system. It's not like it's something new for him.
Very true. Very true.
So it's not like he had to learn a new thing and the speed of the NFL. Like, he has snaps in this league. So, no, I don't think they slept on him. I mean, you know, he's decent, right? Like, he's not amazing, but he's a good quarterback. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't think they slept on him, but he's also not a rookie. Like, he's had plenty of starts.
Mr. Scott, what was your take on Jordan Love?
Well, I was impressed with the team, not as much with him. I mean, I think they started to get some people healthy, the running back, and people were coming along, and I think he's, improved during the year. I think they could get past this first round. I mean, I really do. I mean, I think that the Packers, I like him. I mean, I think he showed enough. He's been around, as some of the comments have stated. He's not a rookie. He's been around, and I think he's ready to lead this team. So we'll see. I'm really anxious to see how they're going to do in the playoffs.
Don, you with us yet?
In spirit.
Bill, what did you think about Jordan Love's performance this season?
Well, I mean, first of all, I think he was the number 7 fantasy quarterback, if you care about that. But he was, despite having a lot of injuries. I mean, at one point he lost his starting tight end. They lost at one point 3 of their wide receivers were injured at one point. He managed to be productive throughout most of the season, despite being ravaged by injury. They lost David, like sort of like a tradition. They lost David Bakhtiari to injury because they do that every year, I guess. But he played well almost the entire season, despite all of that. And they're still a year away, but they're coming, right? They draft well. That's something that franchise has done for a very long time. They're one of the great draft and develop franchises in the NFL. They don't do a lot in free agency, but when they do, they tend to hit even there, right? I mean, Reggie White was a long time ago, but they've found one or two other free agents that have worked out. But if they are able to, fix that offensive line, and they got to find, another franchise left tackle, because David Bakhtiari clearly has come to the end of what his body will allow him to do, they have a chance to be very good next year.
Okay. Demetrius, the playoff bound Lions lost Sam Laporta to a knee injury in the season finale against the Vikings. There was, a lot of talk about Dan Campbell playing his starters. But I know last year you said that it was going to take 2 years for Detroit to get to the pinnacle. Demetrius, are the Lions ahead of their timeline? And let's talk about your season and your playoff hopes. Are you one and done or what?
We're definitely not one and done. We're ahead. Kirk Cousins getting hurt helped us, because that team was still someone, despite me and Mr. Scott joking, if they have their quarterback, I don't know that we beat them both times. Green Bay's quarterback left, and we still split with them. So are we a little ahead of schedule? Yes, because our GM is a genius and
Wow.
literally look at the draft. We got 4 rookie contributors. I
thought you meant because he went and hurt other quarterbacks.
No. He didn't cause Kirk Cousins' injury. That's because I actually did like the Vikings going into the year. I thought it was smart of the league to have them play 2 of the last 3 weeks, because that's what it was going to come down to. But then Cousins' injury changed all that. So I think we're slightly ahead of schedule. I thought we'd be battling Minnesota this year. Another draft, I thought we would be the team to beat. We have fought through injuries all year. We lost Gardner Johnson for a big portion of the year. We lost James Houston. Ali McNeil was out. We lost Ragnow for games. Every team has injuries. The difference between this Lion team and other Lion teams is that we have depth. So that when Frank Ragnow, a Pro Bowl center, went down, we slid our right guard, Graham Glasgow, over, and we barely missed a beat. When Montgomery had to miss a game, Gibbs picked up the slack, right? We are on offense, when healthy, as good an offense as there is in the league. And that's not hyperbole. When everybody's healthy, that line is top 5. That running back tandem, top 3 or 4. The quarterback, whatever you think of him, efficient. When he's right, he's really right. He had like 3 bad games. We lost them all. Right. When he's right, he's really right. We got gaps on defense. We're young on defense. We don't rush the passer as well as I would like. But James Houston coming back will help that. Josh Pascal's growing. Laporta's going to hurt. There's a rookie tight end who's at the record for catches.
No doubt. Right.
The drop off from Sam Laporta to Brock Wright is substantial. We have to find a different. Josh Reynolds has to step up. Amon-Ra might have to step up. Gibbs might get more targets. So it's not like we're going to take the same targets to Laporta and give him the Brock Wright. That's not how we do it. We're going to split his targets up between Josh Reynolds, between Khalif Raymond, if he's healthy, maybe Gibbs. So we're going to find a way because that's the team we are now. We're a team that's good enough to play with anybody. And when we play an A game, we can beat anybody. We went to Kansas City and won. We won in Dallas, even though we didn't get the victory. So I like where we are. And I think more than anything, more than this 23 team, I like where the organization is. We have a culture, we have an identity, we know who we are, and we've got a GM who drafts really well. So whatever happens this year, I'm good. It's all butter now. I'm going Sunday night. We got a home playoff game for the first time in 30 years. Never been in that building for a playoff game. It's all butter now. Hanging the North flags next year, the expectations change. I expect more. But this year, I would say slightly ahead of schedule. 12-5 is fantastic. I'm cool with the losses outside of Dallas, but I like the organization more than I like the 23 team. Love where the organization is.
Bo, talk to us about this matchup with the Lions and the Rams.
Obviously, there's the storylines, right, that the NFL is just absolutely shoving down your throat of Goff versus Stafford. And
it's interesting. It's an interesting one.
It definitely is, but it's really kind of one-sided because Stafford already won that battle, right? Like he went and got a ring.
What the hell are you talking about?
He did join a better team. He joined a better team at the time.
We didn't lose any battle when he went and won a Super Bowl.
What I'm saying is this is going to mean more to Goff than it is to Stafford because it's not like Stafford was hated in Detroit either. Right? Like, Goff got a lot of hate in LA. Like he's going to have a chip on his shoulder, a want to dunk on his old team.
Yeah,
Stafford
absolutely.
doesn't really have that. He's beloved in Detroit.
Yeah.
Right? You also have the fact that Detroit hasn't hosted and won a playoff game in 30 years. It's going to mean more to this team.
Sure.
So I think this is one where Detroit gets this done. Now, the following week, what you have to worry about is have that emotional drop-off that loses them a game. Because
Not if we have to go to Dallas. Not if we have to go to Dallas. It's going to be like a steaming by the neck bone. I promise you. If we have to go to Dallas, the chip's going to be bigger. This whole city hates the Cowboys and Brad Allen. And the team will manifest that hate through the players. Now, if Dallas loses and Tampa comes to Detroit, your point might be taken. But if we got to go to Dallas again, 3 weeks after I won't even. What time is it? No, never mind. I ain't gonna do it. It's still fresh. So if we have to go to Dallas week 2, we got to deal with the Rams first. I'm not willing to jump.
Yeah, for sure.
But if we have to go back to Dallas, motivation won't be a problem. Trust me.
Yeah, no, I think you get it done against LA though. I mean, they're a good team, but I think they get it done.
Yeah.
Well, I disagree with both of you.
Of course.
I think
Who's shocked by that?
I think this train is going to stop. I mean, the Rams, they've been there. Stafford's been there. I don't think, like you're saying, they don't really have any pressure. And I think really they have started to play a lot better. They've really started to kind of find their stride. And so I think this is the end of the road. I really do.
For who?
Shock me at all.
The Lions or the Rams, Mr.
Yeah, the
Scott?
Lions.
Doesn't shock me
the
at all.
Lions.
He's saying
I
the
think
Lions.
it's
Shock
the
me at
end
all.
of the road. I think that they've had a great year. Things have, and I love their coach. Oh, I think he's tremendous. But I just think that, getting to these things, getting to these Super Bowls and getting to these playoffs, it's a whole different season. It's a whole different thing. This thing has just changed all the way to get to this point of the season. And I think the Rams have really started to play good going on the road. I don't think any of this stuff is going to bother them. I think it's going to be a good game, but I think the Rams are going to put a stop to this, and they'll have to regroup and start over next year. That's just opinion. And as the great Denny Green said, one of the greatest things in this country is everybody can have an opinion, but what's even greater is you don't have to listen to it. So I mean that's how I see it. Matter of fact, I'm going to put something on the Rams.
Oh goodness!
Oh my goodness!
Here we go.
We got here comes the insulin money, y'all.
That's awesome.
So wait a minute, hold it now. You didn't throw it out there. What's the wager?
Well, we can do offline for that type of a thing. I mean,
well, I thought maybe you could bet. I thought maybe you could bet a Vikings jersey against a Lions jersey.
It doesn't matter. Whatever the wager is, I accept. I don't even.
Sight unseen. You don't even care. No matter what it is.
Sight unseen. Send her to my house. Just send her around the back door.
Boy, I was like, I would like being in Detroit to take me to my favorite beans and cornbread or the Floods or one of those.
Yeah, remember, I would do that anyway, and make you wear a golf jersey. It's all good. It's all good. It's all in good fun. It's all in good team fun.
Yes, and that's my opinion. I really think
Detroit versus everybody.
That game. I really am looking forward to that game. I might even want to maybe even make a call to Demetrius during the game. I mean,
and I'll answer in the stadium and let you hear the crowd. Detroit versus everybody is not a T-shirt; it's a mentality. We started the versus everybody.
I liked how you described it. They're gonna put a stop to these shenanigans. Is really what the rest of that sentence is gonna be.
Right.
They're like, we're done.
Restore some order to things. Is what Mr. Scott is saying. Mr. Scott is saying order is going to be restored.
The Lions winning 12 games is
the Honolulu Blue will.
I'll be here Wednesday. I know that.
Hey, yes, and we'll be talking smack some kind of way here. Reggie, Stephen A. says that the Cowboys are under more pressure to get to the Super Bowl than the 49ers. Chris Canty said that head coach Mike McCarthy is coaching for his job against the Packers this weekend. Do you agree or disagree?
Well, I'm gonna get out of here after this one, guys. I'm going to. I don't think that Mike McCarthy should be coaching for his job. This is the playoffs, right? We're in a postseason, right? Like, if you're gonna fire the guy now, like, why would you fire him before? You should have been fired the guy. Like, were you gonna fire him at this moment? When they're playing some pretty good football, I don't think he is. And then who do you, not unless they have a handshake deal with a person like Dan Quinn that would just take the job after him and you're just waiting for him to take it, then that's a whole different subject. Then, of course, he's on the hot seat if Dan Quinn is ready to take that seat after Mike McCarthy. But I think that from the pressure situation to win more than the 49ers, I can see that because, for one, you got an old owner who can't wait much longer. Like you Jerry Jones can't keep waiting on that W. So you got the Jerry Jones pressure, but I think you also have the pressure of the Cowboys just being mired in mediocrity for so long, and the 49ers have just been better the last few years. So there's that pressure because they just haven't been good. They've been average for so long. So I will definitely agree from that perspective. The 49ers just been a better team for longer. The 49ers were just in the Super Bowl not too long ago. When were the Cowboys in the Super Bowl? Was that like 30 years ago? What year were the Cowboys in the Super Bowl? So I think that if you just look at the macro there, then it would seem like the Cowboys have more pressure to win this game.
Give us your final thoughts before you leave us there, Reg.
My final thoughts is hoping for some good playoff games, guys, and welcome into 2024. Definitely happy to spend some time here with you guys. I hope we spend more time together throughout the year, man. I very much appreciate being on with you guys.
Absolutely.
All right,
Take
man.
care,
Always
Reggie.
good, Reggie.
Take it easy,
All right,
Reggie.
see you later, guys.
We're going, man.
Dave, what do you think? Are
right,
the
Rich.
Cowboys under more pressure than the 49ers, Dave?
Well, I think they are simply because of their owner, Jerry Jones. And as far as would he fire Mike McCarthy if they lose to the Packers? It depends on whether Jerry Jones is embarrassed, right? If he's embarrassed, he'll do anything. And like in the terms of pressure, I think it just comes down to Jerry Jones. That's why they face more pressure than the 49ers.
Bill, what's your thoughts on this?
My thoughts on the
More pressure on the Cowboys or the
Oh,
49ers?
yeah. Well, I mean, this particular season, there's more pressure on the Cowboys because for those who hadn't heard, it's been a while since they've been to the Super Bowl. So the 49ers, though it wasn't, immediately in the past, it's in the much more recent past that they've been to the Super Bowl. They, got there under Harbaugh. They've been there once under Shanahan. Mike McCarthy is a guy that at one point people thought the game had passed him by. And he even kind of, to some extent, sold his current employer a bill of goods a little bit in talking about what he'd been up to in that barn of his. But at this point, he needs it. He proved it helps to prove that he wasn't simply a creature of the talent and the system and the structures that were right there in Green Bay. It proves for Rain Dakota Prescott that he belongs to be mentioned in that top tier of quarterbacks. And of course, obviously, it gets all of that, built up frustration and everything that Dallas fans have built up over the years since they last won a Super Bowl.
Don, more pressure. 49ers or Cowboys?
It'll always be the Cowboys, James. The Cowboys, they hype themselves. The media hype. They're America's team, whatever. They're the most seen team on TV during the year. So I'm just thinking, Cowboys this, Cowboys that. There's always going to be pressure to do that. And again, a lot of that comes from Jerry Jones and the hype machine. I think that the 49ers, to be honest, I couldn't tell you who the owner of the 49ers is. I mean, it's just one of those situations where, Shanahan has his – yeah, exactly. It's like Shanahan has his guys just keeping quiet, winning games, dominating. And then the Cowboys, it's all about, Jerry Jones on the sidelines, and he's holding press conferences and all that. How many owners have a press conference anyway? Jerry Jones, he's one of them. But, yeah, I think the pressure will always be the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys will probably take the Packers to woodshed this week, and then things get interesting.
Yeah, Art Rooney does do one press conference a year, and that's usually in the postseason after the season's over, and he gives a recap of the season, state of the team, and then that's it. Then you don't hear from him much.
Yeah. And same thing with the Lions, and I think their owner is the daughter of Eddie DeBartolo. I don't remember her first name. Yeah. I think it's Eddie DeBartolo's daughter because he was the owner for years.
No, DeBartolo is actually the owner of the Browns, I believe. When he left the 49ers, he got a managing partnership with the Clowns. DeBartolo and all those guys, they're originally from Youngstown, from when they sold the team, but. Yeah, I think the 49ers. I think the daughter has a part ownership, but I think the Bartlow's not. No, Carmen Policy is the guy in Cleveland now. Yeah, okay. Still another Youngstown crook, all the same. But Don, the Texans make the playoffs for the first time since 2019. What's your assessment of CJ and the Texans, Don?
Yeah, now the Texans, they've done things very quietly. This is I believe they said the first time a rookie coach and a rookie quarterback made the playoffs the same year. So, or same team, same year. I'm really high on Stroud. We're just scratching the surface of his potential. He's a well-spoken young man. He doesn't get very hyped. He just goes out and takes care of business. I'm about this close to becoming a Texans fan. I'm about to ditch the Cowboys, but I kid. I support anything Texas, so except the Aggies. But I just think that the Texans are doing things the right way. They're playing good football. They're not going to win the AFC. I'm not going to kid myself, but they're on the right track. I compare the Texans right now to where the Detroit Lions were 2 years ago. They're building, and so I'm excited for the future.
Hey, Don, have they managed to kind of go back to their original offensive line, the Texans, that they were going to have at the beginning of the season?
I think two of the linemen are still out here. I think
they had some injuries, but right now it's a combination of what they had and some makeshift guys there. But they're getting the job done. They're not completely healthy, but they're getting the job done.
Yeah, if their wide receiver core had stayed healthy, it might have been even a lot better season for them. Bo, is Nick Sirianni's job on the line if the Eagles lose to the Bucs?
No, but they definitely have some very real questions about this team. Not just because of the way they lost down the stretch, but because the way they were winning throughout the season. The one thing that you can say positive about the Eagles here is that defense, although hasn't played great this year, is very young. So it is something that can get better as time goes on. I don't necessarily think that his job's in jeopardy if they lose.
Do we lose him?
Lost him. Yeah.
Yeah, the carbonite got him.
I think a lot of speculation on.
There we go.
Sorry guys.
There we go.
We've had a little bit of windstorms, and so signals kind of not been consistent all the time. But in any event, I think he gets another. I think he gets another year, regardless of how it goes down. But there will be a lot of pressure next year on his job if they don't turn this around and chalk it up to we just had a lot of young players on defense.
Bill, what do you think?
There's no way that they're going to fire him for several reasons. First of all, look at where you are. Who would be? I mean, it's not like Brian Johnson's their offensive coordinator, right? Matt Patricia's their defensive coordinator. So they can't bring up someone internally. Brian Johnson is a terrific up-and-coming young coach, and he's going to be terrific. He was already very, very good, but he's going to be great, right? I mean, I watched this guy when he transferred up from junior college to Utah, where he played for, at first for Urban Meyer, before Urban Meyer went for greener pastures. But this is a guy who's very young, dynamic, smart. He's going to be fine, just needs more experience. Matt Patricia's the head scratcher. Like, what the? But the fact is that a combination of things, including Matt Patricia, led to the team struggling down the stretch. They also have been nicked up at a bunch of different positions. As was talked about, I mean, every team at this point in the season is dealing with injury to some extent or another. It's a beaten up team. They're young on defense and old at certain positions on offense, and even old on some positions on defense too. And old players don't like the last part of the season. It's cold. They're cranky. Everything hurts. So they really could have used a bye week. They didn't get it, but I think just a break from the regular season will help them. And last but not least, I mean, is that where we are? We're firing guys for making the playoffs the year after they made the Super Bowl? Is that where we are now in the NFL?
Crazy.
What have you done for me lately? Mr. Scott, what do you think?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, on the Texas teams, it's hard for me to root for Jared Jones. I mean, it's just hard for me to do that. But I do root for Dak Prescott. And I think that's going to be a very interesting game. I don't know if McCaffrey is healthy or not. It seems like he had some injuries again towards the end of the year. I mean, if he's 100%, that could change the whole equation. And then Houston, I like them again. I like the comments. Stroud, they're an up-and-coming team. They're on the right path. As far as the Eagles, if they lose this game, I think it would be kind of a catastrophic fall. I mean, they started off so well, and they get to the playoffs, and you would think, okay, now we're here. This is a new season, a new thing with the playoffs. They should be ready to go. If they lose, I think that could be it's somewhat a devastating thing. I mean, I expect them to really roll through this, based on what I've seen early in the season. So yeah, I'm going to still roll with them. I think they're just better than the Bucs. I don't see how any way anybody can say that the Bucs are better and should beat them.
Not saying that they're better, but like you say, it is the NFL. Don, what do you think? How important is it for Sirianni to win this playoff matchup against the Bucs?
Well, he needs to win, but this whole contention that he has to win to save his job is ludicrous. Any team that makes the playoffs, you should be getting fired if you lose in the playoffs. I mean, I don't know where that idea comes from. It kind of leaves a bad taste in your mouth. But if you look at his overall tenure as the Eagles coach, he's doing a great job. I mean, he has been there. I mean, he's got a good team. They just, sometimes it's hard to stay on top sometimes. And the NFC this year is extremely tough. The Eagles are there. Of course, Cowboys are playing lights out. Frisco is probably the Super Bowl champ. Tampa Bay can knock anyone out on any given Sunday. So this idea that you're playing for your job or you're coaching for your job, no, I don't get that. He'll be back next year.
Okay.
In the just world, he'll be back next year.
I mean, if Arthur Smith would have snuck in, I'd have still fired him.
Dave, I'm very confident that I can be the guy for us next year. That's what Broncos quarterback Jared Stidham said. Quarterback Russell Wilson's career is in limbo. Head coach Sean Payton says that Russ will be the first to know about the team's decision. Of course, I'm sure he'll probably be the third, but he won't, But anyway, so Dave, do you think that Russ will be in a Broncos uniform next year, or will they be paying his salary for him to play somewhere else?
I would imagine he would want to be somewhere else. The difficulty is the contract situation, but I mean, the way this relationship has been, and it's been from the beginning, even before Sean Payton was there. There was all this nonsense, and I guess Sean Payton tried to take control, but then the pendulum swung the whole other way, and it's to me it's pretty nuts. I think that they're going to try to unload him somehow if they can. The problem is who's going to take him under those conditions. That's going to be the problem. But if there was any way that Denver could unload him, I believe that they've shown every indication that they don't want him. Yeah. At least Sean Payton does. problem is contract wise, can they do it, and can they find somebody to pick that up?
Yeah. Bill, Panthers tight end Hayden Hurst said there were too many voices in rookie quarterback Bryce's young ear last season, and that hurt his season. Bill, do you agree with Hayden about Bryce's season? Too many voices, too many cooks in the table, or whatever you want to call it.
Too many defenders in the backfield.
Right. Too many offensive linemen on the ground. Yes, all of that.
Not enough people.
Good call. It's all.
Yeah, I mean, he was hearing a lot of voices. He was hearing his offensive lineman yell, "Look out!" He was hearing, I guess, the ghost of Frank Wright. He was hearing not Joe Brady, because Brady's not there anymore. They wish it would help that he was hearing Joe Brady. Unfortunately,
Right.
Joe Brady's with Buffalo. They botched so many things with that franchise. Oh my God. It's so hard to pick out just. I'll try to pick just one thing they did terribly that helped to set back this young man's development. So, I mean, beyond firing the coach that brought him in and having one of the worst offensive lines in football, when you have a young quarterback and you decide this is the guy, we're not going to have him sit and watch until the bye week. We're not going to, none of that. No, we're tossing him out there. Usually in those situations, you do one of two things, sometimes both of these things. You simplify your offense, right, to try to make it close to the offense he ran in college. Sometimes even bring, somebody familiar with, or even someone who coached the offense that he ran before. Sometimes even somebody who was on the staff where he was before. Or you surround him with top flight talent. Guess what they did? Neither. Not one. Didn't even think about it. They gave him a very complex offense, very similar to the one that Frank Reich had been running, every other stop he'd been since he became an offensive coordinator and then later head coach. And they surrounded him with probably the worst. No, I stopped probably. The Patriots made it interesting, but no, they won. The worst roster in the NFL. So we have no idea if Bryce Paul Young is any good or not. What we do know is he's tough as nails. We know that because despite his frame, he kept getting up and kept playing football. Yuck. I mean, there's nothing good. I watched so much of that team just to sort of see if I could figure out what they were trying to do. And I still don't know. Having watched every snap of every game that they played, I still don't know what they were trying to accomplish this year.
The best way to sum up this team is they couldn't even find the dumpster to have the fire in. Like this team is bad in every way.
Oh, I guess that is a good way to assess that team, Bo. Bo, despite the rumors that Giants defensive coordinator Wink Martindale would resign on Monday, he hasn't. Rumor has it that the Giants want to retain the defensive coordinator, despite his rather public tirade over the firing of some of his staff. Running back Saquon.
We have an update on that, don't we?
Yeah, I thought he got fired today.
He did. He did get fired today. After we talked. Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought for sure he got fired today. Yeah, it's.
What do you think they're going to do with Saquon now that Saquon says, he skipped the voluntary exit meeting. He said that he was kind of numb to the franchise tag and let's just get it over with. So, Bo, are the Giants front office their own worst enemy?
I mean, they're making a case for it.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately for them, I mean, they're not gonna sign Saquon, right? I mean, unfortunately for Saquon, is he's available for 10 games a year. That's really what he's available for at this point. So he's not going to get what he wants. They're not going to give it to him. They're going to find a young running back in the draft, and they're going to have to do that anyway because they got to make up some cap space, and they have 1,000 holes on that team to fix. So, and they can't really address one of the bigger problems in they don't really have a quarterback. So they got to get a better offensive line, because I would imagine Daniel Jones can complete passes if he can stay upright. Get him some weapons. Maybe they can help out on defense a little bit and get a running back. I mean, they only need 45 draft picks. No big deal.
45-ish.
Don, here's what I say for you. After being benched 6 games into his 3-year, $72.75 million contract, Raiders quarterback Jimmy Porn says he just wants to get back to playing winning football. Don, where do you think are some of the best options for Jimmy next season? Starting quarterback for a team other than the Raiders? Selling exotic cars in Vegas? Or producing adult movies?
Option 3.
I don't see him being, with that price tag, I don't see him being I don't see him being a starter in the NFL.
Nope.
After, let's just say his time is short. I think he'd be a quality backup. I know, somewhere like, to me, like the Cardinals, he would be a great backup for the Cardinals. He'd be a great backup, in New Orleans perhaps. But I just don't see him being a starter anymore. I mean, he's been in the league for several years now, and he's had some great moments, and he's had some moments where he wasn't so great. He can't seem to stay out of the training room with all these little nagging injuries. So I think he'd be a capable backup, but I don't see him, under center as QB1. I just don't see it. And with that said, guys, I need to wrap up, give my final thoughts. I got some stuff I got to do tomorrow. We start a new semester at school. But it was great to be on with y'all. Yeah, I've had some technical difficulties on my computer once again. But I am probably going to Best Buy. I'm probably going to get me a new computer.
Nice.
This time. I've had this for 4 years, and I think the lifespan of a computer or laptop is probably, 4 years, right? 4 or 5 years? Time to upgrade. Get anywhere.
All right.
Time to upgrade.
But guys,
Don, Sunday, the Packers getting 7.5 against the Cowboys, over under 50.5. What do you got?
I'm taking the Cowboys in the points.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, I think Dallas is going to put a whipping on them.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You want to give us a prediction for the Clowns? They're getting 3. Actually, they're giving the Texans 3, and the over-under is 44.
I'm going to take the Texans. I don't know about the points, but I'll take the Texans.
Okay. Final thoughts, Don?
Yeah, final thoughts. Well, since y'all are Steelers fans, it's good. It does my heart good to see Mason Rudolph go 3-0 his last 3 starts. I think a lot of Steeler fans have kind of written him off a little too early.
Yeah.
He's still Mason Rudolph. He's not going to do a lot of great things, but he will win games if you give him a chance. I think that now that Big Ben is gone, I think he's going to flourish, in that new system. And I really appreciate Mike Tomlin keeping the faith. Mike Tomlin is, I think, probably the best coach in the NFL. Coaches are judged by their playoff appearances and Super Bowl titles and all that. But what coach in the NFL has done more with less than Mike Tomlin?
Tell some guy in the Beltway. He doesn't seem to get it.
Yeah. But no, Mike Tomlin's a class act, and awesome. I my hat's off to the guy. I hope he continues to win. So y'all have a great night, and I will see y'all next week.
All right, Don.
Appreciate
Have
it,
a good one.
Don. Take care.
Take care.
Mr. Scott, Saints head coach Dennis Allen, after the offense got Jamal Williams a TD in a victory formation, said he wanted the team to take a knee. But as I said, Jameis Winston decided that he was going to get Jamal Williams his TD. Mr. Scott, should this be a serious concern? And do you agree with Shannon Sharp that the Saints should part ways with Jameis Winston?
Well, over that, I mean, as a quarterback, can't a quarterback call an audible? I mean, isn't that allowed to call an audible? I
The game
mean,
was out of reach. The game was out of reach, Mr. Scott.
I understand that part, but this is pro. I mean, are you supposed to just? I guess there is this undercurrent of modicum, and that okay, we're up. Let's just walk off the field. Let's do it.
They were up 48 to 41 to 17 or something like that, right?
I realize this wasn't a critical, but they didn't need these points to win the game.
No,
I understand that.
No, they were trying to get a guy a touchdown.
They
But
wanted
the
to give him a
worst part is,
touchdown, in the last game of the season.
the worst part is the way they did it. So they ran the play out of the kneel down victory formation, right? So had he called an audible and actually like showed that they were going to run a play, it would have felt a lot different, right? Because the defense would have actually tried.
Yeah.
So of course you're going to punch it in. You actually risk hurting the other team because none of those guys are going 100%, and you're going to have everyone fire off the line into them. Like that's actually not cool on a lot of levels. So like if you want to get your guy a touchdown, that's fine, but square up. Like, that'd be like running up behind somebody, punch him in the back of the head, and be like, I want to fight. It's like, well, I mean, I guess, but if you want to square up sometime, hey, I'm here. So yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with them running the score up. I never have. That's one of those, if you don't like it, stop them. But also show me a play that isn't inherently a give up play.
There's a way you do things though. And
Exactly.
the Lions did the same thing against the Vikings. The receiver named Josh Reynolds, he needed 36 yards to get a $250,000 bonus. We had the game in hand. It was under 2 minutes. The Vikings were out of timeouts. We threw him four straight bubble screens. Four straight bubble screens. He got his bonus. Dan Campbell walked directly to Minnesota's coach and explained it. Minnesota's coach said, cool, I get it. They shook hands. It was no drama. He said, hey, we weren't trying to be like that. We're trying to get my man some money. And Minnesota's coach got it, understood it, respected the way Dan Campbell. This is the way you handle it. And that just screams to the Lions were on the same page there because they talked about it. That came from Dan Campbell. This is Jameis going rogue, middle fingering the coach and putting the other team's players at risk. Because like you said, if they lined up in a regular formation, the other team defends a regular formation. And if he scores, he scores. But that is unsafe. It's disrespectful. And somebody got to take an ass whipping. That's how I feel.
I mean, if you're another team, what are you going to do the next time they line up in a victory formation? You're going to tee off on them.
Exactly. There's a can of whoop ass.
You can't help it.
Yeah.
Next time we play, we got a can sitting over on the side.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you're teeing off on
Was it Taysom Hill or was it Jameis Winston?
It was Jameis. It was Jameis being Jameis. It is classic Jameis, man.
And the coach literally said, I asked for the victory formation.
Right.
Yeah.
And I just looked at my head. I just looked at
the coach.
They ignored the coach.
And it's why he ran it out of the victory formation because I think they still had a timeout. So had he called the audible and put a real lineup out there, he would have thrown the, he'd have been like timeout and been like, "The fuck are you doing?"
Yeah, it's not what I thought. Exactly. There's the undercurrent is another example of Jameis being Jameis, not respecting rules, authority, crab theft rule, all that. The guy doesn't care, man. And now he was, I was trying to look out for my team. No, man, you were doing that thing that you do. You've been doing it since you were in college. That guy can never be a Detroit Lion. I will be pissed if that gets ever on my
No, I'm with you there. I hope he never comes to Seattle. Like that is not something I want.
I don't even
But
want
at
him
the
to be a
same time,
Minnesota Viking. I'm going to be honest.
We don't need him.
Leave his ass in New Orleans or wherever. Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Dave, the AFC North is the only division where every team had a winning record. 6 games ago, when the Steelers began a 3-game losing streak against the Cards, the Pats, and the Colts, Tomlin's winning season streak over, rumblings were started. Once again, is it time for Tomlin to be let go in Pittsburgh? Kenny Pickett gets injured. Mason gets all the help he needs to get the Steelers into the playoffs. Dave, could Tomlin be coaching somewhere else next season? And give us your take on the Steelers' 2023 season.
Well, their 2023 season isn't over yet, but I'll answer these. First with the AFC North, the only other time that it ever happened was in 1935, where all the teams in the division had winning records.
Right.
Wow.
And that's the only time that it ever happened, and that's when the league only had 9 teams.
Right.
And so in the I don't know what they called them. It was the West. It was the Lions, the Packers, the Bears, and the Cardinals. They all had winning records, and that's the year that the Detroit Lions won one of their championships, I believe.
Thank you, sir.
Now, this whole thing with Mike Tomlin and, hey, is he going to be going somewhere? Schefter was reporting on that recently within the last few days. All of a sudden that ginned up. Well, I believe where the origin of that comes is back in mid-December after the Steelers had lost to Arizona and New England. And there's another guy, Jay Glazer. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's a pundit out there, and he has some issues. He suffers from depression and stuff, but he and Mike Tomlin are actually very close.
Yep.
And Mike Tomlin has been trying to help him through his personal issues. Well, Glazer came out in mid-December basically saying that, hey, if Pittsburgh were to offer Tomlin an extension, Mike Tomlin, he doesn't have to sign it. He might be ready for a break. He might be willing to do this. Now, the way I interpreted it, he never alluded to a discussion with Mike Tomlin. I took it as a friend defending his buddy that was under a lot of fire, because when they lost those 2 games to 2-10 teams, the heat was coming, and it was internal heat, from the Steeler Nation fan base.
Right.
Pittsburgh has to do one of 2 things. Actually, there's 3 options at the end of the season. Mike Tomlin's contract is through 2024. Now, they could just make him a lame duck coach and not offer him an extension. That ain't happening. That's just not the Pittsburgh way. So it comes down to 2 choices. You either fire Mike Tomlin or you offer him an extension. I believe that the Steelers are going to offer him an extension, but offering a contract is a 2-way deal. Mike Tomlin could say he's been there 17 years. And in those 17 years, he's either been in the playoffs or in contention for a playoff appearance with only 1 game that was not important. 1 game where the decision had been made that they weren't making the playoffs over 17 years, which to me is pretty amazing. But ultimately, it does ride with what does Mike Tomlin want to do. I'm reading his biography, and his brother says Mike Tomlin just wants to be a coach. That's what he has aspired to be. That's what he wants to be. Now, maybe he does want to go somewhere else to coach. That's a possibility. But right now, everything that Mike Tomlin has ever demonstrated, his singular focus right now is how do we beat the Buffalo Bills? He's not daydreaming about his future at this point. So maybe in a couple weeks, that's something else that we can talk about if he doesn't get a contract. With Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph, again, I credit. I think on most teams, Mason Rudolph would have been long gone because they brought in Mitch Trubisky for a pretty good contract for a backup quarterback, and Mason Rudolph ended up staying probably because he didn't get the offers that he thought he would in free agency. But he's going to be starting against Buffalo. Mike Tomlin already said it. We'll see how he does. Maybe he does it for the fourth time in a row and puts together a good game and has another win. But even if they win, then they got to go back to Baltimore. And to beat Baltimore 3 times in the same season, that's tough. That's tough. But I don't think Mason Rudolph will be back next year. The reason being he's a free agent. I think that he's shown something in these last few games. And as we were discussing with the previous teams, there's a number of teams that might want to grab him. And they may offer him more than Pittsburgh would be willing to pay him as either the backup or a potential first stringer with Kenny Pickett. So that's for me, great that Tomlin got into the playoffs. If they lose to Buffalo, the fans are going to be upset. Well, hey, you haven't won a playoff game since 2010 or whatever. But I think it's amazing that they did get into the playoffs. And I am highly disappointed that TJ Watt has been dissed by the NFL and the NFLPA and everybody that did not even consider him for All-Pro, first team All-Pro. That's a travesty.
Yeah, it's some of the decisions this year have been kind of mind-boggling. Okay, let's get our scores in here, gentlemen. Let's see. Dave, Saturday's game, 1:30. The Clowns -3 against the Texans. Over-under is 44.
Man, I kept on not believing in Joe Flacco, but he's been doing pretty good. But I'm going to go with the Texans. I really like what this first-year coach has done, head coach and Stroud. So I'm going to take the Texans, but I'll take the under in that game.
Okay. The 5:15 game Saturday, Dave. The Fins +3.5 at the Chiefs. Over/under 44.
All right. Well, before the game, the Bills-Miami game, I didn't know whether I was going to be going to Buffalo or to Kansas City. Thankfully, I'm going to Buffalo because it's going to be about 30 degrees warmer there.
Isn't that something
Really?
when you're praying to go to Buffalo?
Right. It's warmer in Buffalo. It's warmer in Buffalo. Great.
And I tell you, for that reason, I'm going with the Chiefs. But I will take the over in that game. But I'm going to go with the Chiefs in that game.
Okay. Bill, the Clowns giving 3 to the Texans. Over/under is 44.
I will take the Browns in the under.
The Fins getting 3.5 from the Chiefs. Same over/under 44.
I'll take the Chiefs in the over.
Okay. Demetrius, Clowns, Texans.
Straight with Bill. I'm taking the best defense in the league and the under.
Okay. And Fins, Chiefs.
Chiefs and over. Yeah, totally agree.
Bo.
Yeah, so I'm kind of going the other way here. I'm gonna take the Texans here. I think Flacco turns back into a pumpkin. So I'm gonna take the Texans and the under, and then I'm gonna take the Chiefs because it's gonna be -4 and snowing. And I don't know how fast Hill's gonna be, but Waddle's still hobbled up. So I'll take the Chiefs here. And, actually, I'll probably still take the under. There's going to be a lot of running in that game.
Okay. Bo, staying with you here. Let's see.
Are we skipping Mr. Scott?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah.
Mr. Scott's still there. I want to hear his pick.
Well, that happens, I mean, avoidance avoiding.
was looking-
I'm used to avoiding.
It's because you're a Vikings fan. That's the problem.
I was looking at Mike Tomlin's picture. I'm sorry, Mr. Scott.
He covered you.
Hard.
He covered you on the screen with a picture of Mike Tomlin. Didn't know you
Mr.
were there.
Scott, the Clowns giving three to the Texans. Over under is 44.
Boy, that's just a tough one for me because I like Stefanski so much. I think he should be our coach. He had been here forever, from just carrying books, and he started here for many years. He should be the coach here, but I got to take the Texans. I like the Texans. I'm going to take the under.
Okay, and the Fins getting 3.5 at the Chiefs.
Yeah, with that weather, I think the Fins just are not going to like that at all. So I've got to take the Chiefs and go with the under.
Okay, Sunday, Mr. Scott, 10 o'clock. Steelers getting 10 from Buffalo. Over under is 35.5.
Well, if Tomlin goes up there and pulls that off, I guess I might join the anointing crowd. I think he's done a lot with, but again, he's had Ben all this time. And you see what happened to Belichick. He had who all this time. So I mean, and how did Tomlin even get the job? He started here as a DB coach for Denny Green, and then he goes right to be a head coach at Pittsburgh. How does that happen? I don't know. It's something. So, but anyway, getting back to the game,
It's called karma.
I just like that you're a boxer with swollen eyes shut, and you're just swinging.
Gonna hit
We're
something.
not even aiming. We're just throwing haymakers everywhere.
I have to take the 10 points. It's going to be. I just have to take the 10 points, and I'm going to take it over. 35 is too low.
She said all that shit about Tomlin, and then you picked the Steelers. And then you took the
It's 10
Steelers
points.
anyway.
It's 10
You're
points.
right. I agree with you. I just thought it was funny the way you delivered it.
Mr. Scott, the Packers getting 7.5 from the Cowboys, and the over under is 50.5.
Boy, I look at that number. I'm going to take the Cowboys and the over. I just think that this could be their year. I really do. I think that they've been waiting to get this thing done with Dak. He's healthy. Team's healthy. They got a great defense. Packers are, they're on the move, but I just think the Cowboys, I've got to take them in the over.
Okay. Bo, Steelers getting 10. 35.5.
So there's always a team that gets a 40 burger, right, in the wild card round, and this is that game. The Steelers are about to get boat raced because TJ Watt's out, Minka is hurt and is questionable to play. The only thing the Steelers do particularly well is defense, and your two main defensive guys are either going to be hobbled or out, and you're going to go against Josh Allen that's going to throw the rock all around. I think this is going to be a little bit of an ugly game. They cover and the points, or the over.
Doesn't Josh Allen rate in the top 5 in interceptions thrown?
He also leads the league in touchdowns. So I mean,
well, hey, like you said, would you rather play cold in Buffalo or cold in Kansas City? Hell of a choice there.
yeah, exactly. And then the Cowboys and the Packers.
Yes.
I'm gonna go with the Cowboys win, but they play with their food and don't cover. This is one where I just don't trust the Cowboys after Thanksgiving, but the Packers I don't think have enough to them to beat them. The Cowboys have played well. So I'm going to take the Cowboys not to cover and probably the over.
Bill, Steelers, Bills.
And the spread's 10, right?
Yeah.
Steelers getting 10, over under is 35.5.
Yeah. I mean, the only reason you put a spread that low is to see if you can trick people into taking the over. I'm not falling for it. I will still take the under, and I mean, this team's not going to lose by 10 points. They're going to lose that game, but not by 10 points.
Packers, Cowboys, Bill.
And the spread on that one's 7.5.
Yep. Over under is 50.5.
50.
Yeah, that's once again you set an over that high because you're trying to scare people away from it. I mean, I'd love to push, but I don't think I'm allowed to. So because I think
Good luck. You do that, you're awesome.
As scary as that number is, I'm going to take the over because I think a lot of points are going to be scored in that game. And yeah, I think the Dallas wins, but I don't think they win by more than a touchdown. I think they win by a touchdown exactly. So that hook is going to allow me to survive that one.
Dave, Steelers, Bills.
Well, right now they're calling for 12 to 26 mile per hour winds with gusts up to 49 miles per hour. So that might mean that
Here we
I'm
go.
gonna be a little bit chilled, but also I think the running game is going to be important.
Absolutely.
So you got Najee and Jalen, but then with Buffalo, you got Josh Allen, who still has some legs, and James Cook, Dalvin's brother, who's been doing very, very good. I'm gonna take the points with the Steelers. I don't know that they're going to win. I'm going up with very few expectations, but I'll take the Steelers and the points. But I'm also going to take the over, which might be a mistake, but I'm going to stick with that.
And Cowboys?
Cowboys, I'm going to take the Cowboys, but the under.
Okay. Okay. Bo, let's give you these.
I'm just not here anymore, I guess. Okay.
Yeah, we
Did you cover me with a picture of Mike Tomlin now?
It's a 4-person rotating.
Blue hell. You only get to have 3 or 4 people on the screen at once.
Might be Arthur Smith.
I'll be quick. I'm not giving up 10 points in a playoff game. I'll take the Steelers. The weather sucks. I'm taking the Steelers and the under. Same thing. I need Dallas to win because I want my rematch. But I can't. I'm not giving up 7.5. So technically, I'm taking the Packers and the 7.5, and Dallas wins a close one, and they're not scoring 50 points because I don't think they're that good. I think Dallas is a fraud.
Ooh.
We gave up a lucky 90-yard touchdown, and they only scored 21 on us. I think Dallas is a fraud. I want them to win because I want my rematch.
They did barely sneak by Seattle, too.
They're not that good. They're ESPN's darling. They went and boat raced the Commanders in Washington, so everybody's falling for the okie doke. Dallas ain't that good. Sorry. I watched them up close and personal. We played a B-plus game and beat them, except the refs cheated. So the refs will probably help them against the Packers, and they'll get a 3-point win. Sorry. I'm still a little hot. I need more time.
Okay, Bo. Sunday night game. Rams getting 3.5 against the Lions. Over under is 51.5.
Yeah, there's going to be some points in this game for sure. I'll probably actually even still go with the over. Both these offenses can score. I'm going to take the Lions here, 3.5. I think they don't cover. I think it's going to be a field goal. So, but yeah, I still take the Lions to win this. This is going to be a tough battle all night. It's the game I'm looking forward to the most out of this weekend.
Okay. And Monday night, Bo, the Eagles giving the Bucks 3, and the over-under is 44.
As bad as the Eagles have played down the stretch and as bad as the defense has looked all year, I think Tampa can be the upset. Like they'll be my upset pick for this wild card weekend. I think they can. I think they'll pull it off. But it'll probably be the under. But I'm going to take the Bucks to win it outright.
Whoa. Okay, you heard it here first, folks. Final thoughts, Bo.
I didn't really think about that on the way through, which is funny because I had some time.
7 hours of podcasting and you don't got nothing else to say.
It takes it out of you a little bit.
It's exhausting, bro. You said everything you can say today.
I mean, it more than anything, just great to see you guys. We had some time off. It's awesome to be back and hang out with you guys, talk about football.
Awesome.
Okie doke. Let's see. Bill, Sunday, the Rams getting 3.5 from the Lions, over under 51.5.
I'll take the Lions and the under.
And the Eagles giving 3 to the Bucks, over under is 44.
Whew. 3 is right about right, but I'll take the Eagles ever so slightly. It's gonna be a nail biter. That's gonna be a really close game. But I think there's gonna be like a late. Hello there. There'll be a late play, perhaps.
I love this. This is my favorite part. Go ahead, Bill. I love this. A late 33-yard interception return.
I think that
part. This is the best.
I think that Josh Sweat comes in off the edge, pokes the ball out of Baker Reagan Mayfield's hands. They recover it and get another score late to give them the win.
One day he's gonna get this shit right, and we're all gonna be freaked out. One day he's gonna nail this.
I mean, that's the problem. Is it's Baker, right? So it's not like I feel good about this pick.
So wait, Bill, did you take the butt? No, you took
no. I took
but the under or the over? I missed that. Sorry.
I took the it was I think it was the under.
44.
So it's
Over under is 44.
Oh, that's good. Oh, that's right about.
You can push that if you want.
I feel like pushing. I do feel like pushing. Yeah.
You can.
I think I do feel like pushing on that one.
You gonna
That's
push
about
them both?
what's
You're gonna take the 3 points too?
I'm gonna go ahead and take the Eagles. It'll be close, but they'll pull it out.
Final thoughts, Bill.
So on this day in 1985, something that I don't think we appreciate enough happened, and it's one of those things that's sort of been lost a little bit in the sands of time, or whatever term you want to use. But Lenny Wilkens won his 1,000th game as a head coach. Leonard Randolph Wilkins Jr. was a Brooklyn kid. A biracial is the term we'd use nowadays. They just use the term mixed or light-skinned in those days. But he, was a terrific basketball player from the time he was, 9-10 years old, and was a good baseball player too. Big fan of Jackie Robinson, but eventually, it became clear to him that basketball was the better sport. Was a 2-time All-American at Providence, finds his way into the NBA, and was a Hall of Fame level player, a terrific player. One of those guys that was, in his 15 seasons was a 9-time All-Star, and then goes into coaching. Now, how often does a guy who's a great, it happens more in basketball than it does in either baseball or football, but still, Hall of Fame level player, then a Hall of Fame level coach. And very importantly, was one of those people that helped to break down the barriers that the NBA obviously had guys. Bill Walton, good Lord. William Felton Russell was a player coach, right? His last year in the league. So we'd had, situations where you'd seen coaches who were men of color, but it definitely helped when he showed, like, if there were any more doubts that anyone had in their mind, he became a great coach. And, the only sort of smudge on his escutcheon is not having an NBA championship ring as a coach, but a Hall of Fame level player, a Hall of Fame level coach. And we don't talk enough about what he did as a coach. 1,000 victories. At the time he did it, he was he held the record. In fact, 938 was the record. He broke Red Auerbach's record and then kept going and got to, coached well over 1,000 games in his NBA career. One of the true greats of all time. And like I said, I think he's become a little lost in the sauce. So I want to remember the incredible career of one Leonard Rudolph Wilkins Jr.
Good call. Love it.
Dave, The Rams getting 3.5 from the Lions. Over under 51.5.
Well, so I don't incur Demetrius's wrath. I'm going to take the Lions and the under.
Good man. Smart. I like smart people, Dave. I love smart people.
And the Eagles giving the Bucks 3 over under 44, Dave.
I'm going to take the Eagles. They're due to turn this ship around. They've had a rocky road, and they're due. I'm going to take the Eagles and the under, though, in that game.
Okay. Final thoughts, Dave.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about an above-average Steelers fan, Mrs. Zafiro Chikadonis. And she had season tickets since 1970, whenever Three Rivers Stadium first opened, and the family still has the season tickets today. I attended her funeral yesterday, but her best memory of the Steelers was attending Super Bowl 13 when they beat Dallas 35-31. Her earliest memory of the Steelers was as a newlywed in Washington, D.C. They were listening to the game on the radio. And the Steelers, of course, in 1949, they had gone to the playoffs in 47, but they weren't too good. And Ernie, her husband, ended up tossing the radio across the room and broke it against the wall. So I guess he probably slept on the couch that night. And if you have any idea, like back then, you just didn't have multiple radios in your house. I mean, that was like they were newlyweds. That was their radio. That was their connection to the outside world. But her favorite play was actually seeing AB, because she would attend every game. It was attending and seeing AB score the game-winning touchdown at Christmas Day against the Baltimore Ravens in 2016, and I was there. And I'm going to be following her advice. One of the things I did an article, and I'll send it to you guys later. I did this article about 6 years ago, but her advice for game days was, quote, dress for the weather, enjoy the game, don't stop cheering, stay until the end always. So I will make sure to comply with that.
Awesome.
She was a great woman. At her funeral, she was the memorial mass was at a Greek Orthodox church, and I came up to pay my respects. It was an open coffin, but of course, her terrible towel was right in there with her. And so she was buried with her terrible towel. She passed away New Year's Eve, about 94 years old. And her daughter, who was a high school classmate of mine, she said that they were actually telling, she had been in hospice, but they were feeding her the score from the game that day for the Steelers. So at least she passed away later that evening hearing it. But again, she was a great woman. She attended games right up into her late 80s. I think she was 89 or 90 for her last game, but a great fan. And that's part of what, we often talk about, the owners and the players and the money and who's more important to the game. But we should never forget the fans. And here's a fan that from 1949 to 2023 always supported her team. So love you, Mrs. Chickadonis.
Nice.
Great story. Great story there. Mr. Scott, the Rams getting 3.5 from the Lions. Over under is 51.5.
Well, as I stated earlier, I'm taking the Rams in those points, and I think it's going to be an over. I think it's going to be a very good game. I'm looking forward to that game also. I'm going to be watching that game from beginning to end, and I think that the Rams are going to. I'm going to take them to win the game.
Okay, all right. The Eagles giving the Bucks 3. Over-under is 44.
You know, I think I have to agree that Eagles should win this game, and I think it's going to be under. I think the Eagles should come out. Something can happen right away to kind of turn the tide right to the Eagles. A fumble or turnover, turn right to the Eagles. Their defense takes over, and I think that's what's going to happen. The Eagles in the under.
Final thoughts, Mr. Scott?
Well, my final thoughts is I just wanted to say, one, it's great to be with you guys in the new year. It's so wonderful to see Demetrius. And I think some of the other comments when Demetrius, there were people saying things like Demetrius only shows up when they win. And I would never say that. That's something that I didn't say that. That didn't come out of my mouth. And so I just wanted to make that very clear.
Okay, that's great.
But my final thought is, as I watched some of the ESPN, I kind of got away from it. I'm kind of back, and I've watched some of the Manning things. And so what it made me think of is the short time that Archie Manning actually played for the Vikings. Yep. And so there was a game that he went against the Chicago Bears. I'm talking about Richard Dent and all. I mean, it was just ridiculous. And he got sacked 11 times. Yep. So he says, I go into the huddle, and he talks to Ted Brown, who was a good back. Ted Brown was a very good back out of North Carolina. Ted, says, Ted, you're supposed to be protecting me. What's going on? He says, we don't have enough people. And so I thought that was such a classic explanation.
Simple fact, right?
We just don't have enough people. So that's what I happen. That's my final thought.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
That's a good anecdote. I like that.
Okay, Demetrius, I'm going to let you take us home here. Rams getting 3.5 from the Lions, 51.5.
I'm going to take the over. I mean, I don't think I got to answer the other part of that, right? I think we have a top. No. I think they're playing well. We have a top 5 offense. There will be points. Yep. There will be points. There will be blood and points. So, I'm going to take the over, and obviously, I'll give them whatever they want. I think we'll win. Touchdown, maybe 8, something like that. So I'm comfortable.
Okay, the Eagles giving the Bucks 3, over under 44.
So this is my upset. I think Bo called it first because Bo got to go first. But I think there's something wrong in Philadelphia, and we'll find out later. I think something's happening with the Eagles. I've seen it. I've watched them 5 straight weeks because I cared about the Lions and the impact that might have. There's something happening there, and I don't know what it is. But I'm going to take Tampa to win the game outright. But I think it's going to be under. But Tampa's at home, and set aside my feelings for Baker, which are not good. I just feel like there's something going on in Philly we don't know about yet.
Hey, all right. Well, we shall see. We'll be back in next week, see how our scores came out. And
what's the bet, Demetrius? Well, what is the bet on the game?
It's whatever you want, because I'm going to win. I don't give a shit. Sorry. Whatever you want to give me, bro. That's my answer. Wait, do I get to do final thoughts? I need to celebrate somebody. Let me hear my final thoughts.
Yes. Final thoughts.
I like to recognize people. And so I've talked a lot on this podcast about the Negro Leagues. It is one of my passions. Negro League baseball, I love. You probably don't know anybody who loves it as much as me. Now, I've also been incredibly blessed in my life. We'll talk, Bill. I've been very, very blessed in my life to have met a lot of people that are considered famous. And it's nothing about me. I've been lucky, and Muhammad Ali will always be number 1 on that list because that's my guy. But I randomly, in 2005, was visiting the Negro League Baseball Museum in Kansas City, Missouri. And Willie Lee McCovey was there. Not at an event. Willie McCovey was just there. And I walk for an hour through the Negro League Baseball Museum with Willie McCovey. He's 67, 68 at the time. He's telling me stories that aren't even on the things about guys who taught him or he learned from. At that point, he didn't come up until 58 or 59, I think he came up. But I mean, I could do the whole 6-time All-Star, MVP in 1969, just mashed home runs, 521 homers. Willie McCovey, easy Hall of Fame. It's Willie McCovey, right? But I'm there, and I kind of know he's a big deal, but nobody's surrounding him. It's the middle of a day on a Wednesday. I had a work trip. We finished early. I had Wednesday afternoon off, and I'm in Kansas City. And I'm like, I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing because this is my passion. And Willie McCovey's just walking through the museum. And I got to spend like 45 minutes. It was next to Ali, which nothing can top spending an hour with Muhammad Ali doing magic tricks. Amazing. But this 45 minutes with Willie McCovey, he was kind, considerate. The knowledge was ridiculous. You guys know me. I don't stop talking. I said next to nothing. I spent 45 minutes listening, and it was amazing. And I'll never forget it. And today's his birthday, which is the point. Today would have been his birthday. Sorry, we lost him in 2018. Today would have been his birthday, and it was just someone who sees a random dude and is genuinely kind and the way it used to be. Old dudes would say, "Come here, young buck. Let me tell you." Right? And he might have called me young buck or something like that, as I recall. He was just like, "You like the game?" Because I think I had on a Detroit Stars T-shirt. I have a collection of Detroit Stars T-shirts. They don't make many. I think I have all 9 of them that I can find. If you find one, send it to me. But he saw me wearing the shirt and he just chatted me up. And I knew he was a big deal 30 seconds in. But I'm going to be honest, I wasn't sure who he was for about 5 minutes, right? And then he starts telling me when he played most of his career in San Francisco, but he played a couple years with the Padres. And then he came to the American League and had a cup of coffee with Oakland. And he is someone. And in baseball, there are guys who are, I'm a National League guy, I'm an American League guy. The older guys are more like, Willie McCovey was like, fuck the American League. He didn't say that, but that's what I took from it. He did not care for it. I think he played 12 games or something with the A's and he went back to San Francisco. He did not care for the American League. And all he did was mash homers. And he was set aside the stats for 45 minutes of my life. He was a genuinely kind man who taught me about the game. At one point, I think he put his arm around me so that we could get close and read a plaque about a guy named Turkey Stearns. Look up Turkey Stearns, by the way. That was awesome. So my passion for Negro League baseball, my love for baseball in general, and this one day back in 2005 was amazing. And today's Willie McCovey's birthday, and there was no way I was letting that go by. No way.
No, that's awesome.
It was too good.
I think in games against major leaguers, Turkey Stearns hit 354, and I think he had a slugging percentage against major leaguers at like 870 something. He was
There were guys who played in the Negro Leagues. You guys don't know who their names are. They would have destroyed the majors. Turkey Stearns is one. Satchel's the one to me. Satchel in his prime was Bob Gibson with more pitches. Like, I don't want to get all baseball geeky on you, but the Negro Leagues are a passion of mine. Like, I'm thinking about launching a Negro League baseball podcast, except there's already a really good one out there, and I don't know if I could be as good as the one that already exists. But Bill, we can talk about it because I love talking about it that much. The guys they brought to the game, the second generation that generation taught. How many times have I talked? You know, we always talk about Jackie, and I'm like, what about in the American League, right? What about the first American League? So I think I did him 2 weeks ago, right? So it's I love it. And Willie McCovey was a genuinely kind man to me for 45 minutes at like 67 years old, and he had nothing to gain, and he's just walking through the museum teaching me, just like, and I was quiet, just take it in, bro, and it was great. It was great.
Hey. Great
Really
show
nice.
tonight, guys. Looking forward to having everybody around.
Good to see you, Mr. Scott. All seriousness, good to see you.
Yeah, you too, you guys. I'm taking the going against the Lions. I'll put 10 on it.
Ooh.
I get
10 grand. 10 grand, sweet. I got it. All right, you can have the points for 10. That's cool. 10 stacks.
You're on.
You heard it here, folks. You heard it here, folks. All right, guys. See everybody next week.
All right,
have a great
Have a good one.
weekend. Talk to you next week.
Take it easy,
Take
guys.
care.
Yep.